And right here on Guy Atchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Network, the community for tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and all those curious about the world of tattooing. We encourage everyone to join these live stream and real world events that we have going on. And we aim to educate and inspire one another to create better artwork, tattoos, and to ultimately leave the community a better place than how we found it. We stream out most days of the week, so be sure to check out the full schedule of events we have going on, as well as our professional development courses from over 20 world-class tattoo artists at reinventingthetattoo.com. You can find these shows on our Roku channel, as well as all your favorite podcast platforms. So just search for Reinventing the Tattoo and you'll find us there. Real quick, just want to say thank you to the sponsors who make this network possible. So thank you to World Tattoo Events, which has the largest, most comprehensive list of tattoo conventions going on in the world right now. Tattoo Now, technology for tattooers. They're the leading edge in professional development, management, and digital tools for tattooers of all levels, as well as our affiliates at the Fireside Tattoo Network and the Apprenticeship Diaries. And lastly, just want to say thank you to Guy Atchison, who makes the whole community possible. He's the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo. And so you can go to guyatchison.com to get your copy of the Biomech Encyclopedia, instructional DVDs, original paintings, and custom coil machines. And if you're enjoying the information we're putting out, be sure to share it with a friend.
Kyle, that was wonderful.
Thanks.
It's almost like the pressure's off when Ben's not here breathing down your neck.
When he's not over there making noises and faces at me.
Is he always making faces at you? I'm usually keeping my hands busy, so.
Sometimes.
Well, today.
Speaking of Ben, where is he? He's not here.
Oh, Ben is on the Appalachian Trail. He's got his hike on. Can we make sure that these are plugged in at all the points? Because I'm only getting one side of my headphones. That's the one. Thank you. Perfect. Little tiny technology demons. So we don't have Ben today, but we do have Maddie joining us in a little bit, which is awesome. Jordan, I think, is going to be joining us from upstairs mid-session, which is pretty awesome. So I was thinking I recently wrapped up the collab with Guy, and then I also recently started a collab with Amber Joy, another really awesome female tattooer from here in Ohio. I figured maybe we should just talk about collabs and what makes them cool. Like, we've definitely had this conversation before, but it's just kind of fresh on my brain right now. So pressing the buttons, the ones and twos from over here.
Yeah, making sure you can get in and that we see them.
Yeah, you could slide the laptop closer if you want. Scoot it in. Look at that.
Boom.
Look, and it's still not even obstructing our view. It's wonderful.
All right, perfect.
So
talk to us about your collabs.
Well, I kind of just want to talk about collabs in general. Just like, I do want to talk about the ones that I've been working on, but I want to just talk about like collabs in general. The process between two artists, like coming to the design together. There, we got Jordan already.
Hey, what up, guys?
What up? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna try to set this up so it's kind of on my tattoo while I'm working, or maybe both of us a little bit. Yeah.
Jordan, you look like you're in Cervena Station.
Yes, yeah, my booth is a little under renovations right now.
Under renovations. I poked my head in there yesterday. I thought you were just rearranging and rehanging things, and then I realized the walls are all black. Black and fuzzy.
He's going hard in the paint all day.
Yeah, I got quite a bit to do. So after I'm done tonight, I'm gonna be going super hard in there. But I'm pretty stoked to show everyone what's gonna happen because I got this whole plan, and right now it just looks so chaotic. It's gonna be pretty cool to see polish off.
The polish off.
Maybe
it looks like crap.
What'd you say?
I saw you come in at like 10:30, and I go up like an hour later, and you're just like full panic everywhere, just like painting walls like crazy.
I know. I literally have 4 hours to do this because I only we got this whole trip planned this weekend because it's my birthday this weekend, and we're going to North Carolina. I'm gonna go camp and stuff out there, and I don't know. I wanted to get all this done before next week, but I also was thinking in my head I could get it done before today.
Right.
So I was, man, if I just go hard, and then I got halfway through and I was like, yeah, no, this isn't going to happen. There's a lot of things here that need to dry. And
there's a lot of walls in that room.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
You forgot about the like trusses that have like drywall around them in the ceiling where it's not all raised ceiling. That's all. That's like a whole extra wall.
Yeah.
With angles.
Every corner has a, has to be taped off.
Oh, Jordan, what'd you get yourself into? Every project that Jordan starts, he's like, this is going to be so cool. And then like 753,000 hours later, he's like, it's going to be so cool.
It's almost there. It's going to be cool.
What it takes.
So today's topic, I was just saying before you joined us, Jordan, we're talking about collabs, just like general conversation about collaborative tattoos. I just wrapped up one with Guy, and I just started another one with Amber Joy.
That page right there. It might be, oh, that's it. Sorry, guys. We're trying to get this live on the TV too right here, and my brain's so one track.
Okay. Well, if you do, there's probably going to be a several second delay.
Oh, okay. We got the voice. We got vocals and audio right here.
Okay, perfect.
So he just wants to watch it because he can't see it from right here and all that.
Do you have any collab work?
Me?
Yeah. Have you ever been worked on by two artists at once, or done like the back and forth tandem? You haven't had any tattoos done yet like that, have you?
Oh, I have not. Not yet.
You haven't yet either, right?
I have not, no.
So I've had two projects done that way. And actually today I was preparing and I was thinking about my Topi and Russ collab. And I totally forgot about my chess piece being Adam and Ty. And I talk about that one the most all the time. But one of the things I wanted to kind of like kick around the idea is like, in conventions, we see more and more like teams of artists, like two artists that take on a big project, or three or four artists taking on a huge project. And kind of like I guess it's just kind of like, I almost feel like there's two different styles or two different ways to collaborate. And I think one is like a true collaboration where artists like share the whole creative process, from like a discussion about the sketch to thumbnails back and forth to like this sketch or digital rendering that both artists have tossed back and forth and worked on together and created one thing. And then that becomes a tattoo that either artist can work anywhere on the tattoo and bounce back and forth, and maybe a layer from each artist in each area, where it's like truly collaborative. Like every inch of the tattoo is a collaboration. Every idea was considered by both artists. Every color was discussed by both artists. Or just like, well, if this is glowing this color, you know what the color palette's going to be, right? Yep, let's go.
Right.
But the other way for collaborative tattoos to happen, I would consider more of like a mashup, where it's like two artists that are either the same style or totally different styles, and they just slam two styles together in a tattoo, and you can like distinctively see where this is one artist, and you can distinctively see where this is the other artist. I think both are magic, and I think both are like equally as valuable and equally as
they've each got like their own charm to it.
Yeah, that's it. They've each got their own charm. Like even my tattoos, my chest piece, that was definitely a collaboration from, Adam and Ty going to the Franklin Park Conservatory together and starting a sketch there, to like the actual rendered sketch that they had stenciled when I showed up. Like it was collaborative from start to finish, and either one of them or both of them, however you want to word it, like worked on each and every area. Like the bad spots, Adam kind of stepped away and let Ty be the bad one, but it's okay.
Yeah, you gotta play good cop, bad cop in that situation, kind of.
Yeah.
Right?
But my leg, on the other hand, was definitely more of a mashup. Like it was a digital rendering, and Russ and Topi worked on it together. But like you can see the elements that are like specifically Topi, and you can see the elements that are specifically Russ. And then there's a few elements that are kind of like the combined of both of them. But it's like, I love both of these pieces. I love showing them off. I love them equally, but they're almost like, I almost feel like there should be like just a whole nother category for a mashup tattoo. Like
Yeah, because
Where-
it kind of is like on a separate plane where like if you were to do the full true collaborative, it kind of almost reads as like one equal piece all the way across as compared to like the mashups, kind of more like a blending of two styles, like you're saying.
Yeah, when I had my shop up in Marion, there's an artist that worked with me. His name was Michael Frazier, and he is still one of my favorite like traditional style tattooers around. His line work is like flawless. His saturation is his black is velvety smooth, like just sound good tattooer. And like when he would take a complicated design and then simplify it to something that could be tattooed in a traditional style, it was always like, I never would have done it like that, but that's so effective and reads so well. Like just is great at how to like simplify complicated things to make them bold and make them readable, but like all the important information is there.
Because that's a hard thing to do as well.
Yeah. So anyways, when I was working with him, one of my first like true deliberate collaborations, like not one of those like somebody else started this tattoo and I need to fix and finish it, or I got this part done on vacation and now I don't want to go all the way back to yada yada. And you know, I call those accidental collabs where like I have to work with what's there and I have to make it as like
Right.
I got to make it as good as possible, even if there's already so many limitations.
Right.
But like, so working with Frazier, we had this idea to do this Star Wars tattoo for a mutual friend of ours. And she wanted a Star Wars tattoo to be like bright and have like super realistic space, but she wanted it to have like hard lines and be traditional at the same time. I was like, I mean, we could literally just have Frazier outline it and then I'll color it my style as if it's like a coloring book that I'm getting carried away with.
Yeah.
So even though both of us had input on it and like we played with the layout and then Frazier drew it, it was still, in my opinion, a mashup because it's his beautiful line work with my crazy exaggerated color all over the place.
Right.
But still a mashup. Like you can see like, oh, those are not Fawn's lines. Those are Frazier's lines. And that is definite, like Frazier did not do that outer space. You know, like you can tell which one of us did which part. And I love it for that piece because that was like the deliberate idea. We wanted it to be like, this is my style. This is Frazier's style. And like he did the lines, I did the color.
Right. You get
clear
the
as
best of
day.
both worlds.
Yeah.
You got like both the strengths in there for each artist.
But I feel like that should be in a different category. Like that should be in the mashup category. Like if there was a mashup category.
I
know
think
what
we
I'm
just
saying?
need to like rewrite the categories.
Maybe. Well, I mean,
like little list.
I definitely a collaboration where I like to not. I don't want to see. I want to see both and neither at the same time. Like when I personally, like that's what to me makes a really good collab. I know there's definitely like a category for both. I think I agree with that. I definitely. I love it. Like especially when I see guys collaborations where I can't, you can't tell where one starts and the other begins or anything. You can see both of them in it, but you can also see that it would not be what it is without both of them because it's also so different from what they might, or like what they normally do or something like that, where it's like, oh my God, that's so guy, but oh my God, that's fucking so bloopy or so fucking, whoever it might be.
It's funny.
I love that. Or like, I mean, our collabs, I feel like are that way as well.
Oh, mine and yours are, yes.
Yeah.
I feel like we toss the ball back and forth really, really well. So the collab that I just wrapped up with Guy, I love standing next to Lauren when she shows it off to somebody and just trying to listen to them figure out which one of us did what part.
Right.
And like, it's either backwards or it's like, I'll be like, oh no, we both did that. Or like he did this part first and then I did the second layer on this. And like we'd move all over it. But it's just funny to hear people say like, that doesn't look like Guy's work at all. But I've got this beautiful landscape that Guy did hanging in my tattoo studio. And then he's got that other like surreal landscape that he just recently finished for Sandy, which is super breathtaking. Mm-hmm. So like maybe it's not like your typical everyday Guy bio tattoo, but like if you look at his bigger body of work and his paintings and the way he plays with clouds and lights and sunsets and plant textures and tree textures and like all of those other things, like how can you like you don't see that? You don't see the combination. Like that's clearly guy stuff in here. But it's more like the style that you're more likely to see in his paintings than his everyday tattoos. So like because I spend so much time looking at his oil paintings, I think that part of his creativity is a little bit more in line with mine and like the way he thinks of bio when he's creating these epic spaces on canvas. I think that's more along the lines with how my brain works, where like if I think about bio, it's more like I want to transform this into something else. Like I want to take this limb, turn it into something else, or just turn it into another space altogether. But with Lauren's leg, it was like we created not one window, but two windows into two totally different realms that were like complementary of one another. And maybe that's the thing where like usually his work is like hot and cool, bouncing off of one another. We have these two totally different spaces that could exist. Like one was subterranean and murky and the other one's like bright and glowy, but like it's that same duality and that same like hot cool or like alive decaying or I don't know. I love how it turned out, and you can't tell which of us worked where, but there's little influences of both of us through the whole thing, I guess.
Hell yeah. I can't wait. I haven't I don't think I've really seen your guys' finished product. Have you posted pictures on it or just maybe video?
I will pull some pictures up here as soon as I get this thing stuck together that I'm building.
Yeah, please.
Or maybe Kyle can.
If you send them, I can pull them up. I don't know if we have them like on here.
I know I've got a video that I just put up on my Instagram that has some really nice shots of it.
Heck yeah. I definitely want to see.
Kyle's working on pulling it up. Together, we can multitask.
Together. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Indeed. I love how thoughtful some of these little shots of Guy that I stuck of him turned out. You know how I'm always like creeping around, getting like the funny angles of everybody working, but I never do anything with them.
Oh shit, that is weird. I can see me up there now.
There we go. So once this video starts over, you'll be able to see it's like two realms that we've created. And then that, because we're building the realms around the platonic solids, it gives us a lot of options to make this piece grow. But I think Lauren was ready to be done.
Believable place.
I'll just extend it to the rest of the leg. It's fine.
Yeah, we got all the other elements we could include. All kinds of spacey, surreal stuff. Creepy over the shoulder shot. And then Monday after Hell City, we had the chance to, Amber Joy and I had the chance to start a project on Jess, the True Tattoo Supply warehouse manager.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got a super solid start on it. I would not have imagined it would be that easy to work with Amber. Like when we sat down with Jess and we started talking about her ideas, and I think Amber and I we both started sketching across the picnic table from one another. And then when we showed each other our sketches, they were almost the same, like all the elements in the same places, just from like using our words to build the image. So I was like, oh yeah, this is going to go easy. And then once we got the stencil on, got everything sized appropriately and worked out those details together. Once we jumped in, it was like, okay, well, let's focus on this and this right now. I feel like Amber and I agreed to what needed to be committed right away. So while she was working on the hair, I just worked on committing like a whole first layer of like the spacey sky behind her. And then at the end of the session, when Jess was getting sensitive, we just kind of like buzzed in the like elemental details just to kind of commit that stencil for us for next time. But I think this is going to be, Jess is not a small person. She's taller than I am. Like this is a very long leg we're working on together. So I feel like we got incredible amount accomplished for our first time working in such a way together. I feel like we'll easily complete this project in our next session. And then as well as this went, I hope that Amber and I get the chance to work together some more. Kyle forgot to do, was that paused the whole time?
It was paused on like the last piece.
Oh, well, bring that back up unpaused. There we go.
Back up.
Here we go. There's the new screen share of a whole different project.
Oh no, that one was playing.
Oh, it was playing?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you just paused it at the end.
Yeah, I just paused it on like.
So there's
product.
this thing that happens when we're screen sharing. There's this box around what we share and it looked yellow, but.
Yes. it still moves, but it is paused on A-frame.
On A-frame.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So was that your first collab with Guy, Bob?
Yeah. Yep. I was pretty flattered that he was down to do a project like that with me.
Yeah, that's super awesome. How many hours did you guys put in together on that?
Oh man.
I feel like that's of course we all love Guy, but
Oh, what? 3 sessions worth?
3 sessions, yeah. Definitely 3
sessions
days.
at Guides.
Mm-hmm.
Feel any like superpowers or like any more like a beaming aura of energy beaming out from your heart after you're leaving from those experiences?
You know, I love visiting hyperspace and visiting with Guy and Michelle and Kaya anyway, so I
Like it's like
feel great when I leave.
Every time I leave there, it's a spiritual experience. I just feel like I can't imagine creating out there too.
So there is this cool thing that happened on our second session together. Is that the session that you came out?
Yeah.
When you got your soul blasted?
Yes.
Okay. It was in his shin. So Guy and I were working away and I just kind of like, I don't know if there was a lull in the music. I don't know if it was just more quiet in that moment, but I realized that our machines were working like they were running harmonically of one another. And it's a really cool thing that I haven't experienced since I was working with coil machines. When Frazier and I would be working, he had these hand-built machines. Another tattooer that Frazier's close with named Don Coling made these machines for him, and they just ran like tops. They were just great running, everyday, like workhorse kind of machines. And I was using Brian Dixon machines almost, not Brian Dixon, Brian Adams machines. I was using Brian Adams machines almost every single day. And again, they're just like built to be tough machines, like machines that were just built to keep going. Like they weren't pretty, they were functional, they were great. But when Frazier and I would be working side by side, our machines just sounded like they were singing together. There was just like this beautiful harmonic.
I could imagine that.
It was.
I think it's definitely something
Frequencies all aligned.
You're creating a frequency that you're able to control. It's the same thing that's happening with a speaker. You know, you're creating a frequency that's, you know, from a vibration, you know, and you're being able to change that through amperage or, you know, through that power supply and how much power you're giving that. And so you can change that. And you guys, you know, if you were to see what I'm sure you were, you know, it was probably like a C note or I'm not saying what. Like but it was some note, and you guys probably harmonized on that.
Yeah,
note.
it was a
and
perfect
then there's
harmony.
The repetition of how fast it's going too. I don't know. There's a few things.
Yeah. So here's the thing: for those of you listening, if you were in a tattoo shop 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, and there were multiple people working, here's what you would hear from one machine: yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so here's what you would hear from 2 machines: yeah, 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 yeah. So if you added like 3 or 4 machines, it became this chaos of like noise where every machine was on a different frequency and a different wavelength, and it added like a whole nother layer of noise pollution to the environment. And that's one of the reasons that old tattoo shops were so like they always had their music so loud, because it was just like it's like hearing multiple alarms going off at the same time when you have many machines running at the same time, and then they're being run and moved at different rhythms. So
that's what you're like every single day, not just an annoying tattoo experience. It's what you're all day, every day.
But sometimes when Frazier and I would be working, there would be this thing that would happen where like it was like our rooms were side by side, so we were close enough together that we could talk, but we had privacy of one another. But our machines would start humming, and they would hum as if it was one note. And he and I were usually listening to like Black Keys or something like that. So it was easy to like move to the rhythm of the music. So if we're moving our hand at the same rhythm, and then our machines are in sync harmonically, you just have this soothing, like, buzz, just one solid, beautiful buzz. And it almost like, I think that's part of the thing that like hypnotized our clients to sleep. But so that's been years since Fraser and I worked together, and I experienced that. And I always loved that thing because it would like put a different charge in the air. It was like when our machines are in sync and our hands are in sync and the music we're listening to is in sync and our clients are happy and we're in a good mood. It's like the whole feeling of the room kind of elevated based on the frequencies that we're blending from our two machines. And then you throw in like the creative energy that's coming out of our brains at the same time. So anyways, long story short, I always thought that that was a really cool thing that happened between Fraser and I when we worked. And I thought it was like a testament to the quality of both of our machines being similar, and like the way we worked and handled our clients being similar, and all of those things. But the cool thing is for the first time since working with Fraser, I got to experience that again. Guy was working with a Cheyenne. I was working with a Mast. So like opposite ends of the spectrum as far as like machine price. Yeah. But you know, I love the Mast machines. I think they're just as good as any of the other ones out there that are so much more expensive. Anyways, that's a side note. Beside the point. But my machine and Guy's machine just kind of like synced up, and it was the same exact thing and the same exact charge in the air and the same, like, you know, our brains were working. We were both concentrating the same. The music was on, but low, or it had stopped. I'm not sure. And our machines were just humming together, and our hands and wrists were moving at very similar speeds. So it turned into this like harmonic little symphony of sound. And like, I could tell, like, I made note of it when I noticed it was happening, but I could tell like the longer we were in sync like that, the more like relaxed Lauren was while we were working on her. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like once that charge in the room changes and those frequencies start being put out, it's like everything just kind of
gets rid of all like the dissonance in the air.
Yeah. Yeah. It like pulls us all together into one creative, like I feel like your mood even lifted when this phenomenon happened.
I remember you like pulled me over. You're like, check this out.
Come close, Kyle. Listen, this almost never happened. I've never experienced that with coil machines before, or with rotary machines before. Mm-hmm. But also, how often do I get to work side by side with somebody where we're working on the same piece? We've brainstormed about it from the start.
It was like same wave like the entire time.
Yeah. So it was cool that like, even though our machines are the tools that we used were totally different brands, in theory, one should have been way better than the other, but like the sound and the feel would suggest otherwise.
Right.
So we just had somebody else join us. Maddie just got here. You want to come sit with us? We'll kick Kyle over to the corner. He's got dinner over there waiting on him anyways.
I snuck a little bit.
You snuck a few bites? I scarfed right before we went live. That's why I've got there. This episode has been brought to you by sustenance provided by Rallies. Big Buford.
Perfect.
Here's how I ordered. Could I please have 2 big Buford meals with Coke?
Awesome. Let me know.
I still haven't fired this thing up. I've been sitting here playing with it.
That was like an ASMR video of you licking that. I was like, no, I can hear you in here. I was like, nice. Oh.
Try to lick it more quietly. Sorry for all of those ASMR. Lick it closer to the microphone. I shouldn't. I shouldn't.
Oh, so you're just talking about how like one should feel more painful than the other when you're getting tattooed by 2 arts at the same time.
No, I was talking about the harmonics that was created between my machine and Guy's machine when we were working together. He was working. I just thought it was cool that he was working with like a top of the line Cheyenne, and I was working with like my favorite masked machine. But like
that I bought.
Yeah. So
Bro, spending that money on that machine after spending all the money on like the crazy bougie ones made me a little frustrated, because now when I go use the other ones, this one's like so smooth.
I know, isn't it mind blowing?
My hand's not as tight all the time. This is not a sponsored video, but like it should.
It's where the weight is.
It feels great. It was like butter the first time I lined with it. I was like, oh. Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad that's working for you as good as it is. I've got a little drawer full of mask machines that I've been trying.
Where does this?
We can just ash in this little pile here, and I'll flick it away.
Do you have a lighter? It was lit, but then
we got to talking. It happens.
Maybe like that.
So I asked Maddie to join us today because we're talking about collabs. Yes. Jordan joined us from his room upstairs. He's making caddy blasts up there.
What's popping?
Definitely blasting caddy.
But I thought since we were talking about collabs, I thought it would be cool to have Maddie join us because she is still recovering from the collaborative piece. If you guys watched our Hell City recap episode last week, which I was still like super exhausted. So if I seemed out of it, it's because I was like, I was still in recovery mode.
I know. Watching, I was like, what's wrong with fun?
Yeah.
I'm just okay.
Yeah. But if you were watching last week's video, you definitely saw Maddie getting worked on. And it's healing up pretty beautifully for the amount of work you've got done.
Yeah, it's been really comfortable. I left the Band-Aid on for 7 days, the Senator. And then after that, like it was like pretty comfortable. I got like a couple little spots that are a little bit scabby. I mean, like 2 or 3 little nick spots, but that's to be expected. It's something that big. So we did 24 hours in 2 days. The first day was 11, the second day was 13. And this time they worked on me back and forth rather than at the same time. When they worked on my thigh and cyan, they did it at the exact same time.
So one of the things we were talking about earlier was, in my opinion, I think collaborative tattoos should be broken up into 2 categories. I think there should be the collaborative, like the collaboration where the idea is thought of together with the, like with or without the client. But anyways, at least two artists' minds involved from the birth of the idea all the way through sketching, rendering, application, artists going back and forth, tandem. Like to me, that is a collaborative tattoo. Every process, every step is collaborative. But the other category that I think should exist is the mashup tattoo. And I think it should be like given equal love, but in a different category.
Yeah.
Because you know how sometimes when you look at tattoos, you can definitely see this artist did this part, this artist did this part, and they match them together.
Do them that way. On this one, they make it so that like the little monster beast at the top starts to kind of turn into the monster beast at the bottom. So I could definitely see that, where instead of it being mixed in throughout the whole piece, where it's like
you can specifically see this artist did this artist did this.
I like that.
I just feel like there should be another category that way, because I was, sharing some stories about some tattoos that I've done either way. So I love the way it looks when you can specifically see each artist's style. And that's where I think that should be in a category of its own. And then the actual collaborative tattoo is where like you lose track of which artist did what. Or like, if you were thinking about it like this, like imagine the 2 artists and the client, or the 2 artists or 3 artists or however many artists, they think in such a way that it's almost like a whole new creative mind, a whole new creative approach and process, because now we've got so many elements working together.
And we're kind of like picking on the same pieces of a part of it to make sure that it's like the best piece that it can be. That's a different kind of collaboration, I think, like you said, than the like 50-50 you can see where Caitlin worked and where Jeff worked,
So this one, I knew that they had, different styles distinctly, but like from this idea on, they were rendering this and building it together though, right?
Yep, he built his part. So Jeff just draws everything on with Sharpies typically. So using stencils is really goofy for him. So he had trouble with the stencil part. He like just didn't want to put the stencil on. Is that me that's rubbing, or you?
It's me.
Okay, heard.
I'm trying to
I was like, I try really hard not to do it.
I'm trying to find a good spot.
I listened back on the first episode I was on with you guys, and it was just me going like in and out. But no, he typically would just draw with Sharpies. So a lot of stuff like pre-planned ahead as like different for him. So doing big collaborative pieces with Caitlin, he has to draw ahead of time, and we'll usually use a stencil. But I think he kind of just starts the monster, and then Caitlin sees the bottom bit, like how it looks all crazy and squished or like slammed around.
So they've done, this is the second collab they've done on you.
Yeah, they've done 2 collabs on me, and then Jeff just did a piece on his own on me. Your little smile.
I'm really excited about that piece, just because you're so excited about that piece.
So excited about this piece. I've been talking about it forever because I thought I had like a perfect amount of room underneath.
Is the video up yet?
It's not up yet.
Oh, as soon as it is, we're sharing that.
You have to. I'll send it to you.
The B-roll was priceless.
The B-roll was probably my favorite part. I was like, "Can you take a picture of me doing a titty drop video?" She was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Just picture of me, a video of me doing it, and then him recording it," because we were doing it. So all the way back now for everyone to be involved. I got a gnome tattooed under my boob.
Do you have a picture? Is there a picture on the grams or anything that we could?
I haven't shared anything yet because I'm late. And like I wanted to wait for him to share it first. You know, being a good client, I'll
It's
do
okay.
my thing.
It's all right.
But I think I have like a little tiny video on my phone I could send over. But people don't talk about the problems with getting your under boob tattooed as somebody who has big boobs. They don't talk about the fact that like you could get a cute little gnome and then you put your boob down and he gets all squished. And like no one talks about that. And that's something I think we need to talk about.
It is something we need to talk about, Maddie.
Yes. So I got a sweet little gnome under my boob. Just living my best life. And then I stood up too soon and he got all squished. So the final tattoo I have under my boob is just a gnome that has been squished under my boob. And he's like splattered and his dick and balls are out.
So first of all, I need to, she keeps calling this her under boob. And like most women call their under boob is like the underneath of the boob on the rib.
This is boob, but it's under.
This is actually the under boob.
The crevice. Yeah.
The under of the boob.
I'm gonna send
it's wonderful.
Video
I've
over
never
to Kyle.
seen a placement quite this clever.
Send it to the tattoo collecting.
Yeah. Tattoo collecting.
Supposed to be talking about the collabs, but we got distracted.
I'm sorry about the
It is the freshest. It's the freshest. You just got it day before yesterday?
Yes. So I sent the video. He has Sanaderm on him, so you can't really see him in his full glory. But I had this like vision forever that I was like, it'd be really goofy to have an interactive tattoo with my under boob.
I love it. You see like the stick man on the trampoline all the time.
So the original drawing we put out for everybody to show them what I was getting was just this cute little gnome flipping everybody off, and it was on my rib cage, basically. And
sorry, Kyle, I could have pressed a button.
But I wanted him to be all squished and look all crazy and gory under there. So I think it's funny because no one else is really gonna ever see him, and I could just be like, you know.
When you walked up and showed me, I was like, what am I looking at?
Harry, when he saw it, he said, you know, this wasn't what I was expecting when you said you were getting a gnome piece. But it makes sense that you did this. And I was like, look how shiny the dick is. He was like, yeah, that's shiny. But that's what me and like Jeff were really jazzed about when he did it. He was like, I'm gonna make this dick real shiny. I was like, do it. He said he wants to make a whole page just called Crevice Creatures. So there's this little head and his eyeballs popping out, right? And his tongue's here and his little peeper came out and one of his balls came out. It's all squished. I love him so much.
This is the best.
It's so good. And like you really have to do work to I mean, I like had it prepped there in the video, but you really have to do work to see him. So like it's like a whole situation. I told you I was like, I can't wait to do like 2 truths and a lie with people. Like I have 2 tongues, a smushed gnome under my boob, and I collect books. You know what I mean? Like something like everyone's like,
Oh man, I definitely, you know, you were right. You'll win 2 truths and a lie every time.
And also I'm hoping to just clean up at most unusual every time we go anywhere, because that's hilarious.
I think it's wonderful. Especially if you like lift it up like this and you're like, you lift and you're like, where'd it go?
Yeah, like, oh shit. I can't.
You like accidentally drop it and you're like, oh no, he's squished.
The videos I like the best because like I let for 24 hours on my Snapchat story, everyone just saw that I was getting a gnome under there. And then everyone was like, where's the picture? Can I see it? I was like, guys, I was kind of ashamed to post it because like you got all squished. Like this isn't for big titty girls, you know. It's just a squish gnome. It's so good.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
You know, it is, you know, while we're on the topic of chest tattoos, when Adam and Ty were working on mine and they're like getting it laid out, and it was the day that they're like the flower of it they had stenciled ahead of time, but a lot of the like growing like scroll work and like the, you know, Ty's rock forms, like a lot of that was just Sharpie.
Yeah.
So like as they're drawing on me, I was like, man, like it just occurred to me, like if I had larger breasts, you couldn't even do a tattoo of this style on me that reads the same way. And it was one of those like epiphanies, like even being a tattooer, it hadn't occurred to me. Like I knew that I wanted tattooed like
all the way.
If I was going to do my chest, I wanted to go shoulders down, all as like one canvas, but it hadn't occurred to me how different other women's bodies are. And they don't even have the option to look at this piece of them and brainstorm the same way that I do. And that's almost like, that's the beautiful part of tattoos.
Yeah.
Like even if you were to, and there is somebody walking around out there with a really bad copy of my chest tattoo,
right?
I'm real salty about it.
They actually are. Someone really stole your. That's a thing that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll show you the bad copy of it.
So wild.
It wasn't even done yet when it got like copied. So, but like part of it, which is floral, they interpreted it as like an octopus tentacle. So it's really weirder than weird. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't see a bright glowing orange
did their own thing
flower.
with it.
Yeah, you wouldn't see that with an octopus tentacle. They don't go together.
You do there.
Bio has no rules, but it has so many rules at the same time.
One rule maybe is
don't
make
rip
it up
off
yourself.
Yeah, and it's a guy. It's a guy walking around. Yeah. So anyways, but like somebody like you, even if you wanted to copy my chest piece or do something similar, you'd have to go about it so differently. Like you'd almost have to like think of your body in different layers, which you have. Like you thought about it as like
first
this was the top, this was the under, and then that's belly. Where
it was hard, like because I knew I wanted my chest tattoo, because for me, like I was always really weird about I was always like a really awkward little goblin, very like self-conscious, didn't like myself. And the more tattoos I get, the more I appreciate that part of my body more. So there's just parts of my body that I was just like, man, I don't like looking at you. You stress me out.
Funny how you can be incredibly self-conscious. Like I'm gonna use myself as an example. I used to be incredibly self-conscious about my legs, and not even that I was big. I'm pretty much as big now as I have ever been in my life, but
just showing off your legs.
But just when I was younger and I was an athlete, I kind of like went overboard with it. Like, I don't know if you notice how like when I get into something, I dive all the way into it. Yeah, I dive all the way in. Like I don't go halfway. I know. I either do it or I don't go halfway about things. So I ran hurdles, I trained with the throwers, and I was cycling like all through high school. So that's like a lot on my legs. So they were incredibly muscly. Like the powerlifting coaches were like,
damn, your calves have calves.
yeah. It was like, girl, quit
ogling my calves right now.
Stop.
Yeah.
But anyways, like my legs were so big that like jeans fit me funny. Like I was so muscly that like they would be, I had to buy my jeans to fit my legs, but they'd be big around my waist. So I mean, I still have stretch marks from how big my legs got so quickly when
especially when you're building that muscle and like you're at that age.
It wasn't feminine.
How fast you're doing it.
Yes, it wasn't feminine. I mean, I liked being strong. I loved what I could do with my body. I loved what I could do with my body.
But then once you get to that point, you have to go, okay, do I want to keep going past that? Because I also body built for a while, and you go through this weird point where I remember I hit like I leg pressed 600 pounds. I hit that point. I was like, boom, leg press. I did like 5 reps, boom, 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 right? And it was like very soon after my legs leaned out.
Yeah.
And I used to have really big legs. My legs leaned out, they got thin, which is like most people want when they go to the gym. But I was building muscle and it gave me anxiety. I was like, that looks so weird to see your body and like because it goes from such one extreme to like a different, where it starts to like just sit normal, you know what I mean? Like nothing crazy. And you're like, oh.
Yeah, I was really like the top of like my arms have always been pretty little, like, you know, I'm smaller chested. So I never like looked big. I feel like I don't even necessarily, I've got a little bit of a belly now, but I don't necessarily like look big.
No.
But like my legs were massive. And when I'd like look down at it, it's like when I got into the blocks and I was getting ready to like, I was warmed up for my race and like, you know, if you're like sizing up the competitors, like my legs were always like the meatiest on the blocks. And like when I'd like get loaded in there, I'd look down, like look back at my legs and I just see like ripple.
Oh,
and be like, oh,
you're like,
but I'm going to get over these hurdles. But so even now, like my legs are not near as muscly. I'm not as self-conscious now about the shape of them, but like even through like my mid-20s, I was really self-conscious. I just felt like my legs did not look feminine at all. You know, they were strong. I could do a lot.
I feel like about like my abdomen area, like my abdomen, my back. It just feels very like, I don't know. It's just not something that I enjoy looking at. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't look like me, I guess. That's kind of like my body. And I'm sure there's reasons people can come up with about that with certain people, why they get tattooed and stuff. And that's fine. But for me, like, I don't know, there's just certain parts of me that I'm just like, man, like, I just don't love looking at that. And I feel like if a tattoo, a piece of art can change that for me and make me love a part of myself, that's the whole point of collecting a piece of art. This is
the epiphany I had when we were like early on into my leg sleeve. Like Adam started with the upper outer panel of my leg. And
that makes you want to show it off.
We had like 2 sessions in, like it was like the outline and the first layer of saturation. Far from finished. But all of a sudden I'm wearing shorts and comfortable about it.
Yeah.
Like not subconscious, not self-conscious that people are looking at me, but like I realize that people are looking because there's a tattoo that is nothing like they've ever seen before.
Absolutely.
So from that point on, it was like people don't even notice that I have man legs or like that. Like
because you're a walking art piece, they just want to look at your art.
Well, and then the other thing is
and
like
no one would ever notice anyway. You know, outside of your own head.
Not to be weird, but like when a woman's thick like that, like having legs like Flojo, but not wanting that kind of attention is not a cool feeling to have. So like I'm self-conscious because I look so muscly, but then there's certain kinds of people that would look at me and give me a whole nother kind of attention that I was not comfortable with.
That was not what the goal was. Yeah.
However, once I start getting like large tattoos on my legs, like they're looking at my legs, but it's a totally different kind. Like they're not like looking me up and down. There's no judgment. There's no oogling. There's no, it's like, oh, I've never seen anything like that. Can I get closer? And then they're literally like looking at it as a canvas and piece of art, not like picking me apart. You know what I mean?
I feel like it's like a safety. It feels safe behind them.
It becomes like an armor, huh?
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like how I felt when I had a full head of locks. I mean, I've always hated my hair. I never liked the way my hair felt. I had a full head of locks and everyone complimented my hair everywhere I went, no matter what I did to it. And it made me appreciate my hair more.
Do you want me to tell you the single thing that I miss when I don't have my dreadlocks? And this is how I know I will have them again. Like I just know through every period of my life, I'm probably going to have dreads.
Yeah.
My shadow. When I had my hair up in a pineapple, because I put it in a like, so you know how like when you make the messy type of bun where you go to like make a ponytail and then you pull it halfway through and just let it hang. I would do that with my dreads and then I flip it so that all the ends stuck up on top. So I called it my when my dreads were short and you'd put them in like your first ponytail, you'd have the pineapple.
Yeah.
So I had the pineapple. I love the pineapple stage.
I hated my fresh lock stage up until I actually got like when I actually had long locks down on my butt. And then I look back at those pictures and I was like, they were so cute. Little guys. And I could feel them like, this one's so much bigger now. Like my 7 I have, like I have a couple faves back there that we kept 7 for a reason. And it was really fun. But same thing though, like the armor thing, like it's what it felt like was to hide behind that and not have to, it was the one time in my life I didn't stress about my hair at all.
Yeah.
Like I always have been like, oh, you know, my hair didn't look good or my you know, it's greasy or whatever I was stressed out about. Being indigenous growing up, I didn't know how to take care of my hair or my skin or anything. So I was just a greasy little monster.
And skin are the healthiest when I have dreadlocks. Like I'm a year without them and I already have like psoriasis flaring up and stuff. And I'm doing everything the same. I'm still like washing my hair infrequently, but like
it's a protective style.
I know some people like will say appropriation all day long, but I'm gonna say here's another argument.
I think it's action versus intention at the end of the day, and I think it depends on like
the first time I asked for dreadlocks.
If you understand and appreciate.
I was 3 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, no, my girlfriend's daughter has a lock in the back of her hair. She says she was 2.
I couldn't
one lock.
I couldn't
and
have them
it's
till
like-
I was grown. My mom wouldn't allow it. She was
Oh.
like, no.
Christina,
She was like, let me brush that mop. Come here.
Christina was fully locked down to her butt cheeks, like natural hair. So she, like when Amelia, she just did a little one on Amelia,
Mhm.
and it's like real long now, and she keeps it, and like she loves it, and I don't think anything about it. I never had anyone approach me about my locks in a negative way. I think it was just it comes down to like how you, I don't know, action versus intention, how you acting, man. And like, do you know about locks and why they're important? And like for different cultures, like your hair is your whole heritage.
I
You know what I
feel
mean?
like
That's all you have.
this-
So like to
this
appropriate,
sounds-
you know what I mean?
this
There are
sounds
people who can't
weird.
appropriate for sure, but that I don't think that locks always.
this sounds weird when I say it out loud, but like it makes sense in my own brain. So bear with me. And
Yeah,
if this
hit me with it.
sounds like cuckoo, I'm
I'll reel you
sorry.
in, I'll let
but
you know. Yeah.
so I feel more myself with dreadlocks, and I
Yeah.
feel like almost like in an ancestral way.
Fucking
Like,
powerful.
when I like look at my shadow when it's a sunny day and I look down at my shadow and I see me, I see like this other representation of me right there, but it's got these powerful, like this
Yeah.
powerful, like headdress looking
Yeah.
thing. And it like, I feel like it changes the whole
See, the
aura
reason that
of
you
my
appreciate,
shadow.
like the reason that you like your locks and the reason you appreciate them is like, that's as long as you feel that,
Mhm.
you know, that's why you're getting into it. It's like that. For me, I got rid of my locks because it, in my culture, when you shed hair, whenever bad things happen, you know, and I was thinking about that. And like, as I learned more about my culture and learned more about myself, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
It's funny
And I
you
thought
say
about
this
it.
because right before I cut mine
Yeah.
off, I really cut them off because like, all right, they're getting long,
It
they're
was
getting
holding a lot of
heavy.
this heaviness, and I had to get rid of that.
They're
Yeah.
this far from touching my butt crack, and I can't handle my hair touching my butt crack.
Yeah.
It's been a problem since I was a kid because it grows fast, and like I just don't like that
Yeah,
feeling when
that's
my hair
fair.
touches my butt crack
Not
in the
everyone wants
shower.
hair in their butt crack.
It's
Yeah.
just I can't help it.
You
It's
wanna
one of
pull your own hair?
those
My
like
sister did it when she was younger.
I
I
just
get it.
can't. I can't deal with it, and I don't. It's a me thing. There's if I'm not judging anybody else
got
if
butt
your
crack,
hair's
you can
that long. That
have it.
is
Yeah.
fine. Like you do you. But
Yeah.
for me,
As for me,
Nope.
my house.
so
Yeah.
I didn't feel right about cutting my dreads. So it was like, I think I'm just done with these ones, and I'm going to do them again when I'm a little bit older.
Yeah, when
But
you're ready for
you
them
said
again,
you
can
have
appreciate
7?
them more. Yeah,
I
have
had
my 7.
33.
So I had my whole head. I had
33 is a good number.
the side of mine was shaved, so I had 25 altogether. And then when we started taking them out, because I was like, I need to get rid of it. I need to, you know, feel better. And it was a really important part of my life with tattooing also, where I had just gone through like my first like year of being a tattoo artist. And
Okay.
like that was really important to me. And like that was one of the reasons I wanted my hair anyway up, was like when I got into tattooing, like you said, you get obsessive about stuff. There's very few things in my life that I'll say that I got obsessed with.
Mhm.
And tattooing is most of them. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Everything that just relates back to tattooing with all things that I like. And for me, it was like, I didn't want to give any time to anything. I used to care so much about how I looked, and I make up every day, all the, you know, and I took a minute with my locks where I got to just be like, oh, I'm beautiful. People would just tell me I'm powerful and beautiful with my locks out, and I could just be natural. And it gave me more time to do important things. Like I would just throw my hair up in a bun, wash my hair once a week, and would paint all the time, or go and tattoo, and all the things I was doing. And then once I got into like, tattooing wasn't easy for me to get into, and I got into a lot of pretty icky ways to crawl up to where I am now.
Mhm.
But I just kind of felt like I was holding a lot of this negativity and stress, and like I had let people that I didn't really relate with anymore, like want really to have any hold on me anymore. They had like worked on my locks, so they're in my hair, and that
Okay.
was in my head about it.
So my sister started mine, and
yeah,
if and
that's
when
still awesome.
if and when I do my dreads again, I'll definitely have Brittany do it for me. She's got a knack. First of all,
I'm gonna have you guys work on
she's
mine.
got a
Yeah,
knack.
I really like that.
I mean, I've done them for a few friends of mine, but Brittany's fast, she's thorough, and they're incredibly consistent. Like she's got a knack for it. She did them for herself once, and she wore them for like 3 weeks, and she's like, nope.
Not for me.
She likes running her fingers through her hair. Like that's her fidget. She sits and just runs her fingers through her hair. Like where with my dreads, I would sit and like just like rub the end of my
I would
dreads.
just grab them when I was stressed out. I would just like, I had like my favorite one that was real fat, and it was like real matted because I was always touching it. You know? It was real like flat.
So now when I'm in traffic, I feel like I pick at my face really bad all over. Yeah, when I was in traffic, I always had my crochet hook right here, so I just like pulling the loose ones in. Like anytime I wouldn't stress, I'd be like, hey, I'm running late. Shoot my text. Whoever I was going to go.
To me, my favorite thing ever was my girlfriend come over to visit, and she's bald headed now. She took all her locks off. She was like, that was some heady shit you did. I was working on my locks and I like did a dab off the end of my crochet. She was like, that was some heady shit you just did.
Oh man, I'm amazed we weren't friends during this time of our lives.
But no, back to the tattoo part of it, but it's like an armor thing, kind of like my locks. And I felt like all those areas of my body that I was always really like selfish about, or like self-conscious about, or like just kind of like insecure about. The more I get tattoos on them, the more I'm just comfortable being out and being myself. And that's kind of why I like to tattoo, because it's cool to let other people, like people who come in and they're kind of like awkward or whatever, and seeing them get more and more tattoos and seeing them be super fucking confident and like taking pictures, hot pictures on Instagram, like get it.
Once I had this epiphany about my own collection, I really started taking pride in what I could do for other people. Yeah. Like
it feels
there are some people, you ask them why they got this tattoo and they're like, I don't know, because it was cool.
Right.
Okay, let's break that phrase down. Let's break that phrase apart. Like between you and I and the wall, we're gonna break that. When somebody's like, why'd you get your tattoo? Because it made me look cool or feel cool or it's cool. Okay, let's take that phrase and take it apart. When somebody's like, oh, it's cool. I want it because it's cool. Yeah, it means
I like it.
It makes me feel better about myself.
Yeah. I feel cool with this thing on my body.
Who else on the planet can do that for another person? I mean, therapists can, but it takes years and costs a lot more than what we charge, even the most expensive tattooers.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think
when you can walk in, take control of your body and then give that control to another person, like have control of yourself, surrender it, and then that person takes that trust and gives you all the power you ever wanted, and you get up off of that table and you leave the shop more confident than you walked in. That's a pretty magic thing.
And that's just for you. That's for the people that you're around too, because I've always been a really self-conscious person, just really anxious, and my clients portray me as like this very confident, bubbly person. I'm like, oh, cool, thank you. And it's just because I have tattoos now, so I'm not as stressed to talk to people, because I know you're looking at these and not everything else. I had made that TikTok a while back where I was like, I used to get really anxious about like, are my clothes too much? Am I doing too much? Is my lipstick too much? And it's like, you
do too much.
Face full of tattoos and jewelry. You are too much and you like it. Just do that. That's fine.
Do it.
Yeah, it's fine. You're a little goblin. And I think the more that I get to be that little goblin person, the more confident I am just to do my own things.
And isn't it funny how like,
because they expect me to act messy. If I do act messy, you already thought I was going to a lot of times when I roll up.
Isn't it funny how the more you like unabashedly just are yourself, the more permission you receive to be that?
Oh, absolutely.
It's so funny when I see people that have anxieties, and those anxieties are kind of like that crippling thing for them, or that thing that holds them back. In reality, like, take that anxiety and just step on it and own it. You know what I mean?
Mine, I had to just kind of, she's with me all the time. We're very anxious. So I just kind of backpacked her a little bit. So I have anxiety, very bad social anxiety, and I'm very talkative, and I can do things like this just fine. And it's because my anxiety comes out like adrenaline, right? So in the moments I'm like, we're God, do it. And later I'm like, oh my God, I did that. That was wild. And I like will overanalyze everything. And it's like a whole situation. But for like, that's why everyone, like I grew up in a little country school and being a little weirdo that like ate art, like lunch in the art room and just worked on the wheel, I was always, and I look back on pictures of me, I was a cute kid, but in my head, I was a little monster and I like hid away from everybody. So a little bit of it I did to myself, Then as I got older, all the things that people had always like picked on me about, like, you babble, you talk too much. Oh, we went on a whole car trip and it just wasn't a moment of silence. Like, that's a superpower. A lot of people can't talk to just anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I can roll up. I mean, that's how I met everybody here, was just being nice and talking to strangers. I would have never worked here if I not just like went up and like, want to smoke some weed with me? Like I didn't know anybody. I was like, I like your art. You'll do tattoos or something? Like, like it just be nice. And I think that finding this industry was really important for me, because now, the having to talk to strangers and be able to babble at people when you're anxious, how, a lot of people like to be talked to when they get tattooed.
Yeah.
They can't talk to you. And if you can just hold a conversation with yourself, Jordan and I were actually talking about that the other day. If he has time to tell you what he was talking about, it was really funny. He was talking about like kind of, yeah, do you remember?
No, you keep going. You keep going.
Oh yeah. He was talking about how he was like in the middle of a conversation with a client, and I forget what topic they had got on, but he like asked a question out loud, and then like the client was like, yeah, and he was like, yeah, and he like went off of that and like started this whole tangent, like deep thought. Like he was just kind of like, he's like, sometimes at the end of sessions I kind of just like word bomb people, just kind of keep talking to him, because like that's where my head's at, where I'm like focusing up, I have to like have something else stimulating, so I start like deep thought into things. And I think that's like as a superpower. You know, a lot of people will just sit there awkwardly.
I feel like here's the thing that happens to me. Like, you know, with most of my clients smoke.
Right.
So I invite all of my clients to smoke with me, but it's kind of like my switch. Like once I get to the shop, I come to the smoking area and I just kind of like shed all of my stuff that's going on, whether it's good or bad. I just shed everything that's going on, and it's time for me to switch gears into my client space and have them kind of switch gears into my space as well. It's kind of like our like, let's let it go, and how's your life? Da, da, da. So anyways, at the beginning of the appointment, when we're having our smoke and chill, we'll call it smoke and chill, I kind of get an idea of what's going on with them, and you know, usually I can tell if there's something they need to talk about or if it's just a regular day. But then I find that once we get upstairs, I kind of I'll prod them a little bit maybe, but I feel like a lot of people just kind of like talk about things that are going on. And sometimes it's just like, here's what my kids are doing. Da, da, da.
Sometimes it's out of pocket, and I love it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love those clients.
Crazy, but I feel like the thing that I do is I like listen, and like as I'm working, I'm mulling over their things, and it also gets my brain reeling to similar situations that relate. And then usually we'll get.
How I feel like sometimes I use my clients to like take ideas that I have to places that I couldn't have taken them myself, and just use the opportunity as another human being who has no choice but to get ear beaten by the moment, because you can't do anything, especially the last hour of a tattoo. It's like, all right, well, we're going to talk. He can attest to it. We talked about aliens pretty hardcore a little bit ago, and I probably just went off. I don't even remember, but I don't know. I do get to that point, like last couple hours of a tattoo, where like, a lot of times, honestly, it's like throughout the whole tattoo, but I try not to be too ear beating. I mean, I like to have the conversation, you know, I don't like to just be the only one talking, but sometimes there's so much idea that it's like, oh, all right, got it out about it. But I like that, just the idea of like, you know, just like a collab, like it's a collab on an idea. And I really do see it that way when I have conversations with people. And I really like to pry certain ways that some people are thinking, just, you know, only for the fact of like, and not in agreement ways, not usually that, but like, say, like if I'm, you know, just be like random shit, like we're talking about AI or something like that. Like, oh, you know, I don't know. I just try to think of questions that like, you know, I want to know what other people think about that. I want to know what they think about the idea that they have, you know, depending on maybe some clients I have think about this way more than I do. Maybe some people don't think about it at all, and everywhere in between, but it is interesting to see like the different, you know, not that ChatGPT or AI is like the point of the conversation, but you know what I mean? Just in terms of random that I could come up with, because I do think about that kind of stuff a lot. And it's always, tattooing is definitely my time to really get down and think about things like that. And, you know, I'm just kind of like stuck in my head the entire time, you know, as the artist too. And I don't know, I really, I enjoy my mental space. So I like using that as kind of like a playground if I can. You know, some days I'm really quiet, might not even be, I'm not in a bad mood or nothing, or just like hardcore work mode, just thinking work thoughts, or you know, it can be project to project, that's for sure. Because sometimes I can shut right up and not work at all, because there is so detail oriented, so careful, so delicate and all that, that, you know, it's almost, I don't know, I just shut up. It's like,
it's kind of cool too with your clients. A lot of times my clients like surprise me all of the, like I had a Lindsay, when she comes in here, she'll just talk about stuff and I'm like, bro, you're smart, huh? Like, it's like when you talk to Jordan, you're like, oh, talk to you. I'm like, okay, yeah, say more things. Like, I love that. It's really fun. Some clients just like, they come in and you wouldn't expect them to have some just like in-depth knowledge on this thing that you like. Like I have people come in all the time and look at all my taxidermy, and I've had some people just drop some hot facts on me about taxidermy. And I'm like, thank you. Or like, it's how I met my, or not met, but kind of got back into trading my entomologist friend for bugs for tattoos. I do a little bug tattoo on him, and then he gives me a little bug, and then like I look up the bug while I'm tattooing it, and I learn a little bit about bugs. It's kind of like school, you know. It's kind of like school, but interactive for me, you know.
It is crazy that like ebb and flow, the give and take, the I shouldn't say take, the give and receive, like between us and our artists. I love when I work on somebody that's like space ages more intelligent than I am.
Just keep.
I'm always like, yeah, just feed me more, man.
Oh yeah, I do have. I got a lot of clients like that, and I love that. I love that to death. I don't know. I got one guy he's got a PhD. He's like a math teacher. He's got a PhD, and he's just like obsessed with math. He loves math like to its core, like we love art, and like loves to talk about everything about it, and loves to like. I like to pick his brain and on like mysterious weird things about math, and he tells me about I don't know all this mysterious unknown shit about like math itself and how it's like an entity of its own, and like so many weird things that I would have never thought about that literally make me want to just learn math at its core is to like have that understanding. Because then I see things from his perspective and I'm like, it really is it's a gift, when you know something like when you know something like that, that's also so fundamental to everything. And like the way that he sees things because of how smart he, like, I don't know, now I'm getting more on just like a math thing. It made me appreciate fucking something that I never think about like that so much. I always think of how I don't like math and stuff, and I know it's involved in a lot of things that I do, but just shit I would have never thought would be so cool, and might not even be cool if you explain it. But then when you get in the intricacies of why exactly that's cool to mathematicians, why it's cool to whatever, I'm like, that really is the coolest shit. I totally get that. I have no fucking clue what you're saying, but also that's really crazy, It's like having someone tell you a physics fact that sounds so awesome, but what it takes to actually understand that, it's just like a world.
I feel like, one of the things that I love is like, I really like paying attention to the ways that other people explain and teach things, because you can have all the knowledge, but to be able to pass it on to somebody in a digestible way. Like you can, like Jordan said, you can ear beat somebody with data all day long, but when you can like find the way to like connect to them and they're like, oh, I get it.
Okay, so it's like this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes. Or you actually want someone to listen.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Said I feel like, I don't know, people really can't listen to you when you ear beat. If you drone on for 30, 60, however plus seconds without giving somebody else a chance to talk, I realize it really is. I can do it all the time. And I realize that I don't realize what it's like for the other person to be listening. But then I'll sit and listen to someone who's ear beating me or something like that when I'm experiencing that feeling. And I'm like, oh man, I'm feeling this because I, haven't been able to, whatever, or like, whatever it might be. I just think it's always just like a give and take. You can really, really help people listen to you by like controlling the conversation in that way.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like where like my whole journey right now, like where I'm at is the more listen part. Because for a long time, I get so excited about things. When I get excited about them, it's almost like the same feeling of things, what I mean? Exactly. So I just babble about them forever. And I get so excited. I want to tell everybody about it. And then when someone tells me something, I want to make sure that they know that I understand what they're saying. So a lot of times I'll be like, oh, wow. And then I like want to help out too there. And I think being here, it's been really helpful. I've like caught myself a few times where like, I'm like sitting here and I'm doing a lot more listening to everyone else, like say some wild, like cool things that's super helpful in my career. And it's like taking that moment to go, okay, cool. And I think with my clients too, I'm having that more now, where before it was like, I'm just anxious. I'm just babbling, doing my thing, Now I saw
while we're on this topic of passing on information, there's this post that I saw years ago on like, it might not have even been Instagram the first time I saw it, but on color theory and how color changes in different environments. And like basically like the different spectral properties of like underwater, like the deeper you get underwater, how the spectrum changes. I came across this post again on a whole different page, and I was like, oh, I need to send this to Kyle, because I'm always like, anytime I see somebody that's like a really good color teacher or just dropping like nuggets, I like stuff like that. So I always
took like 5 screenshots throughout that. Like I was literally just doing a piece not too long ago where I was like trying to figure out how the colors move as it goes further into the water. I was like, this is perfect.
Yep.
That's exactly what I
A few years ago, Killian Moon made a post where it was stills from maybe not that same video, but a similar demonstration to that video. And it had the chart where it was like the video, and then it broke it down to like every 10, 20, 30, all the way to 60 or however many feet it was. So you could actually see the spectral change. Can you bring that post up?
Yeah.
This is not tattoo related, but it is tattoo related because we do a lot of underwater tattoos. Yeah. So why do I use limited red in my underwater tattoos? You're about to see. I'm about to blow your mind.
Disappeared.
Hit me with it. Okay.
Actually, you're gonna see. Kyle's queuing it up right now. Here we go.
I'm doing a big old Kraken tomorrow. Watch me add some colors to like color weird water.
Take note.
You're gonna be like, okay, so I can use orange and yellow and pink,
like,
but not
Sarah,
red.
Hear me out.
Okay, here we go. Refraction. Refraction of the water surface. So
that's a really good example right there.
See how the red starts getting a little muted and this brown over here starts becoming muted. Boom. You don't even see those reds anymore. Now we've got what was orange is like a fluorescent orange. What was pink is a fluorescent pink.
It is wild how
got
it start to look underwater too. You know, we see things in cameras that have all the filters to add the color. You know, they have the red. People that take scuba diving pictures have red filters. You know, they have all the filters for that. They add to get such high definition pictures, but in essence, or in a lot of those photos, a lot of those colors don't exist. You wouldn't see them with your normal eye. It would look a lot more gray when you're there in person. Like, granted, very beautiful.
That red is like
still because you're immersed in it, and it is. Everything does have color, but it's funny how it's not as vivid.
Yep. So you can use little tricks like this to change your environment and atmosphere just by knowing, like, okay, here's the laws of color in our environment and how we understand them. But this is one of the things I like to daydream about is like, what if we change the properties of color? What if we change
what things I like to daydream about? So cute.
So I just love this demonstration.
Yeah, thanks for sharing this. That's awesome.
Speaking of nerdery, color.
I love colors.
I could talk
Speaking of
color
nerds
and
and
light
colors,
any day.
Jeff said that he would like to come on here maybe sometime. He was talking about his experience of doing the art fusion and like how cool that was to like paint next to people and like work on a painting, one of the things I was talking about last episode was how the art fusion experiment used to be this thing that was just going on behind, like opposite of the main stage. Yeah. And it went on all day, but over the years, like, more people have started getting involved with it, and like really good experienced artists have been getting involved with it. So these projects are becoming like successful, and it's to the point where like it's an event on the main stage. Like instead of having a band, we have art fusion on the main stage now. And this year, every single time home runs over and over. Yesterday, I was helping Kyle move something big into his house, and I looked behind his door and realized he got one of the art fusion pieces. I was like, "Oh, Kyle!" But I was sitting there looking at it, and it was like, that really did turn out good. Like everybody actually like tried to make something good out of this, and we got each time there were 5 successful pieces. Usually, we're lucky if we get like 1 or 2 that look good, but there were 5 successful pieces of art each time.
Everyone crushed it. Everyone on the bio one crushed it hardcore.
The bio one was awesome.
I thought we killed it. I mean, every other one for sure, but I guess being a part of the bio one is just like so cool to be with all like bio artists who knew how to take off from each other so well.
I thought didn't Jeff work on the bio one too? Or
was he on the bio?
I wasn't sure.
Jeff was not on the bio.
Was he on the bio?
He was on Friday and Sunday.
Cool.
Was he on the same one that we did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew I got to see some of the bio ones. Those are super cool. I appreciate. I mean, we talk about this a lot. I've got the bio bug, guys.
She caught the bio
bug. I hadn't really like experienced bio. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't really know what that was. And I had seen some like shitty bio online, that I wasn't really into, or like if I had seen people that had it, it was like I just didn't really get it. But being here and seeing such like a wide variety of bio and what it can be, and like how much fun you can just play with it and like make it into something
I feel
else.
like there's this funny thing that happens when you work at Red Tree. Like when you work there long enough, you somehow happen to the opportunity to go over to hyperspace. And then there's always this, like, there's a point where like a guy looks at you and he's like, so why don't you have anything from me yet? And I just feel like that's like, it's one of the side effects of the bio bug that you catch when you enter Red Tree.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
that.
you know the Emerald Ash Borer? We have a bio bug. Highly contagious.
I went around and I was like, okay, wow, that's kind of cool. Well, that's kind of cool. And then I went to Hell City this year and saw everybody doing the bio stuff. And I was like, oh, quit it. And I was like, well, maybe, I mean, I don't do new school or whatever, but maybe I could just maybe paint a little bio. And then I started a little bio piece with Sandy. And that was so fun. And now we're doing like a cute little pixie garden with like a worm security officer and like, but it's like all fun bio and like weird ways that the like fruits are growing. And
Sandy got me wrapped up. I forgot to even mention this earlier when we were talking collabs, but Sandy got me wrapped up in a collab project or 3 collab projects with her and John Clue. Speaking of bio
and collabs.
Yeah. You guys have heard me talk about John
so
Clue and his weird, like bony nobule shapes. He has these rad shapes that look like you've got bone cancer on the end, but you just want to like touch it. And it's got like cool light here, warm light here, perfect rich grays where they belong.
I want someone to look at me
I'm
the
not
way you
gonna
look at
lie.
his bio.
I'm not gonna lie. My buddy Derek, I've done a lot of black work on him. Like he's got one of my bigger black and gray collections, and I'm really proud of all of his work. But his arm, we did like black and gray bio, kind of filling in and behind pieces that he already had up top. And they're all like, oopsies. They're all like different bone shapes and structures. So we've got like these rib bones that like, it's like the back of his arm is like the front of a torso with ribs. And then those ribs kind of like form into like John Clue, like weird bones with knobs on the end. So I don't know, like I've been openly inspired by his work a lot.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
I just love those shapes.
You're about to do a collab. When do you get to start that?
Well, we're just doing digital.
That one, that's the one that you showed me that you had started.
Yep, that S-shaped one.
Stop it.
Yeah.
That's
So
exciting.
I'm gonna send that to the group message tonight, and we'll see where we go.
Excited to see it when it's all done. There's a little gnat that likes me. I went to visit Jeff from Golden Yeti in Tennessee, and that was like over the weekend. So I spent my Memorial Day, and while I was there, they got these cool ostrich eggs. For every year, they paint these ostrich eggs for the zoo, and then they auction them off to make money for whatever animal they're making money for. And it's just super cool. And this year, they let me paint one with them.
That's rad.
Yeah. So I sat down and I'm like, you know, the things I do, like goofy little beavers, you know. And I was like, what am I going to paint? And I was like, you know, I'm just going to start with a fun, like glowy background, you know. And I was like, it would look pretty. It would look pretty cool here. Give me a little bio. I started painting bio, and I look over, and Jeff's looking at me, and he goes, "God, you work at Red Tree, huh?" I was like, "Oh, is that a thing?" And I didn't notice.
I didn't realize until afterwards. I already had the bio bug coming in, so I'm like, perfect. Feed my addiction.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
You know, it really. I didn't realize how. Like, to me, I've always loved bio art because I'm an earth nerd and a science nerd, and when you just take
you
those
explained it that way, that's why I liked
them.
Yeah,
it's all the eye candy and science candy, and then you add the idea of making something look like it's growing, or making it look like it's functional, or making it look like it's actually like a load-bearing structure for this other thing that's going on. Like,
yeah,
I just love those
it's
thing.
fun. That's why I've been playing around with it, these little dudes. I'm like,
but basically you just gotta
play around with it like it's alive, and I was like, I'm gonna make it sick. Like, I get little boils.
Like,
and it's fun for me to think about it, because like the way that I draw and the way that I think is more of that like goofy new school, very like, I don't know, very cartoony in my brain. That's kind of how like my little goobers happen. So when I was painting my like the ground growing. Because you said, think about it like it's alive and it's moving. And I was like, how would dirt make a shape like that? I was like, that was a fun little thought, huh? And I was like, stop it. I was like, oh, I see it. So like, new school people, do some bio, because I think that we could do some cool things here.
I mean, okay, if you look at crazy new school stuff,
if you could just think of some weird shit, you could do crazy stuff.
So here's the thing.
It's endless.
I had this epiphany a while ago, and the epiphany was, okay, if you look at a lot of my, yes, absolutely. If you look at a lot of my like incomplete work from when I was younger, I'd like do this real cool background and I couldn't figure out what to put in it.
Yeah.
Well, and then I'd get stuck. I'm like, push it to the side. Do this other real cool background and then I'll figure out what to put in it. Push it to the side. Do another real cool background. Create an awesome space. No focal point. Push it to the side. So there may have been chemistry involved, but I was stuck on a painting because I built this really cool background and I loved it. And I put all of this thought into it. And I had all these bricks, all these architectural things. And I was going to have something floating through the space, something. And I couldn't figure out what it was. So I was probably like 28 or 29, maybe. I was grown. Like this was a recent epiphany, if you will. Maybe I was a little bit older than that. But anyways, I was stuck on this painting. The opportunity to play with some chemistry presented itself. And as I was like meditating before consuming said chemistry, I was thinking about this painting and I was like, I really want the focal point to come to me. Whatever is supposed to be in this space, I need that to come to me. So while I'm in the throes of experimenting with this chemistry, it strikes me that the space is the focal point.
Shit.
Me experiencing this space is the focal point. Me making this window to this other space for somebody else to experience. They, in their experience viewing it, are the focal point. The space existing is the focal point. I didn't need to add another thing because experiencing it was the thing. Yeah, it was
no, I love that.
I don't need it if I don't need
it. when you play with the chemistry, sometimes you have like for me, every single time, I just call myself out on shit. I'm like,
well, oh yeah, that's the given.
Yeah, you just call yourself out on it, and I definitely have it in my artwork too. Where I'll be like, that's a little safe.
Look, Andy Warhol said it best. Art is what you can get away with, or art is what you can get away with, or art is what you can get away with.
As long as you don't fill it with like sexual things, I think it's okay.
I mean, even if you want to fill it with sexual things, odds are somebody
staring
might
at a
buy
very sexual painting that you made right now, sir. It is thinging. That thing be thinging for sure. It's probably one of my favorite things to look at when I come out here.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you why. Just like a process, like, you know what? That kind of looks like, you know what it is. All right, let's just keep going with that. All right, well, that looks like, let's keep going with that. Keep going with that.
It's dope.
So is this little monster thing that you've got here sitting in front? I'm going to take a picture of this and send it to Kyle. Is that like a shrimp knee spawn? What is that there?
The spawn of shrimp knee?
Yeah, what is that thing with the crazy face?
That's a caterpillar creature. I don't know
very
what that,
cute.
I just started, I don't know what was going on. I think me and Emily were just taking a bunch of shots one night and just like painting, doing crafts and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I got all this. Oh yeah, I had a bunch of extra paint on my palette from working on the Triceratops. And I was just getting like, I was just starting to get a little tipsy. And I don't know, there's some pieces I'll work on if I get tipsy, but a lot of my work, I just don't, I don't drink at all when I'm doing anything.
Look at this guy. That looks like a little baby shrimp knee.
Anything that little baby shrimp knee hours, I'm not going to do when I'm drinking.
Yeah, no,
look at him. Look at him.
I always go through a little something here and there once in a while. I'll spend like 5 minutes on just adding a little thing here and there sometimes when I come in.
I sent you unsolicited dino pics today because I went to COSI and I saw really cool feathered dinosaurs and I was like, oh my God, Jordan's gonna love this. And I pulled out my phone and I just sent you some DMs. So maybe check those when you're free tonight.
One going on over there.
It's pretty cool. There's some cool dinos there right now. I don't know if they're there all the time. I'm new to
Can we switch to
Cosi.
that other one,
It's pretty neat.
that other Jordan picture. This is the only slightly sexual one that we were maybe talking about.
What I love.
You said
Sometimes people don't even see, you know, it's like when you look at it as a whole, and none of that really sticks out until you start detailing it with your eyes.
Oh yeah, no, it took me a while, and then someone else mentioned that, and I was like, oh, because to me, it
As
just
soon
looked
as
like
someone told
motherhood.
me, I was like,
is
I
what it
can't
felt
unsee
like.
that.
And I was like, that's kind of a cool, like very like maternal painting is what it felt like.
Right.
And then everyone was like,
Then
they're
if
all
there's-
thrusting dicks, and I was like, I don't get what? What do you mean? There's not there's thrusting, and then they were showing me, and I was like, oh.
Oh, no.
But then I look at it a different way, and I still love it. It's still, you know.
In hell.
Sorry, I didn't realize that first picture was so shaky.
There you go.
It's a fail. Look at this thing. You see that little embryo that's been staring
So
at us
cool.
this whole show? Every time I like look up and look lost, this is what I'm getting it lost in.
Yeah, me too. I keep peeping about it. Anytime I'm out here, I just stare at it.
It's gestating.
It's definitely, when the prints happen for this one, I will definitely be getting one of those. It's very beautiful.
What I love is like, I don't know, and I'm even thinking about it right now, is it just looks like it's like leading up to something, you know, it might be what it is, but like still when it's got a baby, it's kind of got that feeling of like, what is it going to be? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
It's somewhere and it's growing and might be moving. What is this place that it's in? It's so unreal, while also like your brain almost like has to try to make sense out of it because of the few things that are kind of, you know, that your mind can grab a hold of, the things that look kind of realistic, like the baby or the brain behind there, like definitely titties and sexual stuff, but whatever else, I don't know. Love all those different weird thoughts you could have. I don't have anything I was dictating it as, you know what I mean? Like I kind of go with it. I just, intuition guides.
Crazy.
Another painting I'm staring at is Kyle's painting, and that glow that you're building up off the back looks like I could just grab inside there.
Which one?
Very bottom.
Ah, okay.
Very bottom left side.
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
just snag onto him. Off the top, obviously, but like that little bit down here that you're building out, I'm seeing on that. I'm like, oh wow, that's fucking crazy.
Thank you.
And the top bit, I love all the texture on that top little spot, like the front bit.
Mm-hmm.
I like all that texture. I feel like I could just.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to like get back into that one soon. I've kind of put it on pause since Hell City.
We can paint on it. Like you can paint on it when we do our paint night.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to get back into my goblin. My goblin's been neglected for a while. I got mad.
Part of the process.
Artistic karma, it adds up. But I got like 10 projects going right now, so don't let me say anything. It adds up in my brain.
I know I started another one and I'm like working on it a little bit, but I think I
No
need to.
artistic was like first for me though. I don't like that.
Yeah,
I
Kyle,
like it
look at that.
Like I like it when there's always something to work on. But there's something magical about when you have everything done and you're like, damn, I have nothing to do. Everything's up to creativity and what I can imagine now. But when you have 5 projects up in the air, sometimes it's a little wild to think about it that way. But I always want to start new shit, and that's my problem.
You before Hell City was chaotic, I'm sure, with all the pieces that you brought in.
Mm-hmm.
And like gin.
It's like that's where I thrive, is like in that like stressed out for art feeling, because I just love that feeling. Unless
that
it's like
pressure.
Unless it's like real stress or something bad, like I need to do it because I'm going to lose a lot of money, or I don't know, something like that. Or maybe even that. I don't know. I like pressure.
I was looking at all the dinosaurs today, and yours totally could just sit right up there.
That is a museum quality piece,
like,
Jordan.
And the pieces that I was looking at, and they're like the ones they had built, like they were very beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but like
probably janky compared to his.
It did. It
like
looked,
half the feathers.
It did. It looked
rushed.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, your piece definitely looked more real, where these ones I could kind of pull apart the areas that weren't, you know, with yours, it's like you even look at his butt. One of my clients said, I said, did you get a chance to go see Jim? They said, yeah, I went and I looked around and I even looked at his butt. That was pretty crazy. And I was like, yeah, I know, right? I was like, his little tootsies back there. I was like, it's so cute.
I'm like, Oh, you've seen the front, but have you seen his butt?
If you look at his butt, I'm
Tim?
like, get up under
Did you
there.
say his name's Tim?
Jim.
Jim.
Yeah.
Jim.
I love looking at all the parts where it just like kind of converges into one from like 3 different angles and watching just how you like laid all that perfectly. Yeah, flowing through.
Oh, thank you, Kyle. Yeah, it was definitely a learning experience. And I'm going to be honest, that thing it's just so crazy. Like, it was the coolest research project ever. I just learned so much about dinosaurs, about there's so much about fucking turkeys, so much about pheasants, how feathers work in every way you could imagine almost. Like, I was just, because everything would lead me to more. And then even if I wasn't working on it and I had any sort of downtime, I'd be like looking stuff up just so I could try to learn more. So the next time I go back at it, have just like a better understanding of it.
Yeah, so great.
There's Jim. I remember when you were first starting this, you were like, how would you do feathers on something like this? And I was like, well, I'd start at the tail and work my way forward.
I was like, say no more. I literally, like, that night went home and probably started feathering.
It's so cool.
Yes.
It is great. I mean, in person, it's so crazy. I got up right next to him and stuck my tongues out next to him. Was like,
I mean, Jordan was talking about this thing and he was showing like little pictures of progress and stuff along the way, but I did not imagine it to be this intensive. Like, you really knocked this one out of the park.
Yeah.
What's going to be your next feathered project?
I'm not 100% positive. I've been trying to think about it lately. I have quite a few dinosaurs I'd really like to work on. I really do.
Jordan, have you thought about like maybe taking this to museums or taking some photos and videos of this to museums and being like, hey, like, is this something you'd be interested in buying or commissioning me to do more of?
Having up for a period of time, even if you're not ready to separate with him, you know?
I would commission all day. I mean, I want to make another one like that. And I was surprised at how quickly I was able to put it together, to be honest. It took like a couple 100 hours, but I was able to do it in a month, which is quicker than most of my paintings.
That's crazy.
And I don't know, I'm going to be honest, there was a gratification from it that was just so cool because of how much I learned. Every dinosaur that I do like that, it's just insane how much knowledge I've learned about so many different art forms at the same time, like dremeling and airbrushing, and then feathering, and then even airbrushing feathers, and then using epoxy sculpt and all the intricacies of epoxy sculpt, and then being able to dremel and work that after that's cured. And there's just so many things I don't know. It was just so cool to involve it all in one. I mean, so much woodworking as well. It just like I couldn't have done if it wasn't for, so many of the investments I've made in myself and so many like the other things where it's like, oh shit, I have this to do this and this to do this. There was nothing that was like keeping me from making something happen where I was like, oh shit, I'd like to do this, but fuck, I got to get that, do this and that. I was like, everything was I wouldn't say necessarily everything was so reasonable, but everything was so easy for me to grasp in terms of like, oh my God, I know how I would do that. I know how I would do that. I know how I would do that. It's like, oh shit, I could use wire to make a normal base for it. And I could break that wire down into each segment of its bones and use multiple, or just like, keep using wire and things to like kind of replicate bone and just keeping the same size and mass with that all around the board would keep the anatomy pretty solid if I was consistently just trying to be as precise with those things. And then the way I was wrapping skin and joints and just working my layers, how I would like wrap plaster around the wire in ways that would like the skin would grow over it, or how I would imagine the muscles and the knuckles and stuff. And when I had questions of things that couldn't be answered, because there's only so much that we know about these things, I'd look towards turkeys and I'd look towards pheasants and birds that we have around. But then there was also the question of like, what birds should I look at, because they're descendants of birds, right? So like, you think of a raptor, you think of raptors that are around now, and you think of like a really cool bird you want to be like, oh shit, yeah, fuck, I'm gonna go eagle style and do like eagle stuff or something like that, or something, big and mean and badass. But then you're like, wait, they don't fly. They wouldn't have winged feathers like that. We know we do know that they didn't fly. Like so things wouldn't be set up. I couldn't look at an eagle wing. That wouldn't be right to look at anything that would have that type of flight feathers. And plus just way arms. Yeah. Looking at more ground birds made more sense than anything. And definitely when it came to the feet, I definitely researched cassowaries and like ostriches a lot and went through a lot of those to try to get the shape and the detailing on the feet. And then even for some of the textures on there, you know, I made a lot of texture stamps, even out of clay myself. And stuff I did do that I didn't end up putting on there is before I knew that I was going to feather, I did want to feather it, but I also wanted to I had some ideas for like some neck stuff and like some like turkey giblet type things, little turkey gizzard.
Like wattles.
So, yeah, wattles. And like something like that and just having some flappy neck skin. So I you know, learned about silicone in a way that I haven't, casting silicone in silicone, and then ended up getting some like dragon skin smooth on silicone that's just like, I mean, it just feels like skin. I mean, it is like,
oh, that's cool.
It's crazy awesome stuff to work with. And then, I don't know, I spent a while learning that casting process a couple years ago or last year or two ago. And I'm like, damn, I want to try that out. And knew I might not use it, but I wanted to just spend a day doing it just to see what I could do. And so I sculpted a couple like tessellated skin pieces. So like imagine like skin pieces that could fit together if I wanted to, like 4 or 5 pieces that could fit together on a bigger scale if I wanted to connect them to. But like then made, you know, just that one neck gizzard part. But I wanted to cast all of these different pieces just so I could reuse skin over and over, just keep casting silicone and having like a tessellated skin thing. But yeah, I just ended up casting that clay, using it, and the results turned out exactly how I wanted them. But
isn't it crazy how like full feather? Isn't it crazy how like sometimes when you just like take the leap and you're like, yeah, I'll just learn how to do this thing, and you never know how it's going to come in handy. But when like this idea occurs to you and it's like, oh yeah, I can do literally everything it takes. Like
I swear, if you see,
it's not going to be easy, but like I can do every step.
I like to Emily, I know I do. I look probably manic as fuck. I bounce all over the place. I'm one thing, and then I'm all over the place doing different things, and then I'm researching one thing, and then I got my computer hooked up to my TV, and I'm going through, you know, 3D images of different things, and then all of a sudden, you know, shit, I got a break from working on the dinosaur. I'm gonna go fucking work with my vibration pad and my other little science experiments that I got going on that have nothing to do with that. But oh my God, so bad in my head. I need a little bit of time to do it because I'm so busy with the other thing. I'm like, cool, my little break, I'll do that. When it's like Emily's watching me literally just pace back and forth doing all these things. And she's like, when are you literally just going to sit down for a minute? We need to smoke a blunt. I'm like, how long? I'm like, how long? I thought we smoked a blunt like a half hour ago. She's like, it's been 8 hours. Like 4+ hours. In the best ways completely. But like at the same time, I know I get a little, I don't want to, you can definitely say ahead of myself because I just go so hard and obsessive. But when I'm following that like intuition in the moment, there's just like this inspiration and these dopamine hits and stuff that like, it just becomes like a drug for me. And then information becomes a drug, and information on what I'm doing that enhances that. It's like a drug, and realizing between ChatGPT, between everything on the internet, YouTube, everywhere, there's nothing I can't learn. So if I constantly come up with questions of like, what is it that I want to learn? What can take this to the next level? What is it that I don't know that could help this, you know, whatever it might be, I just follow along with that as far as I can. And I mean, honestly, that's like what I've been trying to do as much as I can, you know, getting, you know, any project I'm in now, but the dinosaur was a huge one like that because it was just so, it took so much, and it took so many stations, to make happen, because it took the woodworking, it took the sanding and the dremeling and the airbrushing, the feathering, hot gluing. You know, it took so many different things. So there was so many times where things would have to dry, and I'd be like, all right, that's got 10 minutes to dry. Cool. I'm going to go research everything I can about turkeys for a little bit.
I don't know, even as manic and crazy as it seems, when you pull off a project like this, it makes it seem worthwhile. When you complete one of your big paintings.
It's wild. That is the reason why.
For anybody to
perspective from the outside sometimes seems the other.
Yeah, for anybody to look at it though, like, you know.
If you have to be my partner and deal with me in life outside of the part that looks cool, it's not as positive all the time. Not that it's super negative, but you know what I mean?
But it makes it worthwhile when you have these things to show for it. You know,
right.
If you were bouncing all over the place and you didn't complete any of these amazing ideas, or you didn't see any of these amazing ideas through, that would be the shame. But when you accomplish something so cool that like is a museum quality like showcase piece.
Seeing those dinosaurs
and
was
like
underwhelming. I was like, oh, I mean, I saw like a real dinosaur the other day.
Well,
like, this is cool, but
Jordan and I have like gone round and around, and I'm just gonna kind of put both of us on blast, but like Jordan and I have gone round and round. For instance, he was like the back and forth that we had was, he was like, you can totally paint oil over acrylic and vice versa. And I was like, no, you can't. And he was like, yes, you can. I've done it. It worked. It's successful. And finally, one day I was like, if you want heirloom quality art, you can't do that. Eventually, those layers will delaminate because they're not, you know, the whole chemical explanation of why you can't do it. But it was like, if you just want to sell your work and put it out there and you don't care about it lasting hundreds of years, okay. But if you're going to put hundreds of hours into something, you should do it right so that it lasts and it's an heirloom piece. And I could finally see it click in Jordan, like in that conversation, in that long explanation that was like, you know, we'd worked on a lot of projects together and, you know, we've talked about so many art things, but it was just this like one thing that kept coming up.
It was like the longevity of it.
Yeah, but it was like, if you want it to be heirloom quality, and to hear the way you're talking about all the work that went into your dinosaur, it's like, man, finally that epiphany set in and it made all the quality and structure and all of the like making sure it's right to make sure it stands the test of time. Like, yes, you can do it. You can mix anything and make colors that look cool together, but do you want it to last?
Right.
So funny. Yeah. Emily makes fun of me all the time, and I do it all the time. She makes fun of me, and then I still just do it unconsciously all the time. Is like, we're like talking about a piece of art or something like that. It might even be a tattoo or someone else's sculpture or a painting or something like that. And she'll be like, "That's really cool." I'll be like, well, I don't know. I'd like to see that like in 500 years. They're like, that's not gonna like her thing. Her joke is that like I'm always like, when it comes to a piece of art, if it's not gonna last 500 years, then like
why bother? Why bother if it's gonna fall apart in 10 years or 20 years or 30 years? Like, what if this person you sold this thing to, they fall in love with it and they want it to be an heirloom piece and it's their signature thing. It's their, but it's not gonna hold up.
Yeah,
that'd be a shame.
Sorry, I was gonna say, for me, it's beyond like, of course I want it to last 500 years or something, but it's almost like that's not even the point as much as like, did this person do everything they could, the best that they could to turn that, you know, to really do what they could. Yeah, it might have been limited knowledge, and some of that might have been like, hey, how can I make it last longer? But also, let's say you know that. Let's say you know how to make it last longer, but putting oil over acrylic is easier than waiting all your drying times, you know, and that's going to take to tint and do all of that, you know what I mean? And so like, I don't know, I feel like when you can see those things, people take the easy ways out, or just like doing things for the sake of habit or doing things for whatever, but they're not doing it, not necessarily because someone says something's the right way to do it, but when you know there is like a better way and you're choosing the easier option, not like an alternative that's good, but like
it's an integrity thing.
Something where you know something can last 500 years, or you know something is going to last 50 to 100, but you only care because that's your lifetime. You know what I mean? I feel like there's a whole level of caring that shows in things that it goes beyond like how much you actually care about it lasting 500 years. Like, to me, that's the question of like, how valuable is our own art to you?
I think Derb saying, had that conversation with me when I came to visit, and he said, painting is super important for us all to do. Like, it's important for us to make art outside of tattoos, because eventually all of our tattoos are going to die, and so will we. And then we're just somebody that people who really like tattoo history know about. You know what I mean? And instead of something that we made tangible art that's going to last forever, that people can see, and like, you know, I care about my art, and that's a whole part of my existence, is just making beautiful art to have out there to share with people. So like, I want to be able to have that carry on past me too. Like, I have an art collector that's one of my favorites, and he like gives me an update every year about how much he loves his paintings. He has a set. He has this huge set in his loft. And I used to sell back in my hustle days, I used to sell paintings on Tinder. I would just I'd put a couple thirst trap pictures and then a bunch of paintings, and people would hit me up, and someone would be like, "That's a really cool painting," and I'd be like, "Buy it." And he did. And then he had another one, bought another one. But it's just really cool that like, everywhere he moves, he makes sure to send me a picture to let me know, like, this is where it's hanging now. It's my favorite thing here, you know, and that's like real cool to have. So like, thinking about that too, now when I make pieces, I have that in mind too. Like this is really important to somebody,
Yep.
which is a lot of pressure sometimes. I think it kind of makes me stall a little bit, but it's really cool to like know that that's something that you can be in someone's household. Or
I think about how like special my original pieces are, like the ones that I've been fortunate enough to collect. I've got a lot of Tom Strom work. I've got a Guy piece. You know, a lot of the glass collectors that I've gotten things from are pretty prolific in my opinion. I love knowing that those pieces were built with integrity. Like you, like being an artist, I can see the process and I can look close enough to even learn from them. You know what I mean? Just by having it and being able to see like the light pencil lines that you can't see in a photo or a print. But when you have the original, you can see it. You can, you know, you can see which direction gravity was pulling the pigments in the watercolor. You know what I mean? Like there are just such subtle things that you can see that you can't see in a print. And I love having those things. And I love, you know, preserving those things.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, there's nothing wrong with like student quality art or, you know, like there's nothing wrong with it if it's a mixed medium project. I'm not looking down on that whatsoever. But, you know, one of the big points is if you're putting your heart and soul and energy into something, don't cut corners.
Right.
You're putting everything into it.
Just do it all the way.
Yeah, just do it all the way. Because by the time you're 400 hours in, you're going to be like, man, I wish I wouldn't have shortcutted that step.
Right.
Now I got to spend 50 hours undoing it.
Feeling like 1,000% is like when I get 200-300 hours and I'm like, damn, those little decisions I could have made in the beginning because I might have been lazy. I didn't want to wait a few extra hours. They don't matter they matter a lot, hugely later on. But when you got that much time into something, like you start to just feel so silly about the little things you didn't do in the beginning. It's like, so I don't know. I feel like such a psychopath if I don't do that. It's just like, insane, you know, insanity. You know, you just keep doing it. You don't learn your lesson. It's like, wow, how many times am I going to paint a 300-hour painting before I stop putting oil on top of acrylic or something like that, you know, for example.
It was pretty cool though, because your arguments did check out. You're like, but I've done it and it works. And, you know, for me, when I was a young painter, I did not understand the difference either. I didn't quite understand the chemistry like I thought I did. And I thought once it was cured, it was good too. But once it was broken down like that, to me, like if you're going to make heirloom quality work, you should make heirloom quality work. And
then the respect of whoever you're going to sell it to, if you want to sell it for a respectable price, those are things you have to do.
Right.
Because you don't like, they want to buy a piece of art that's going to last forever. Who cares about your own thoughts of like, you know, oh, I want it to last forever or not. It's like now they own this piece. Like they want this thing to last forever. That's what people want out of oil painting. It's like why people spend money on an oil painting. If people that are art collectors understand that, to know that it's going to last. There's a reason why they're investing that kind of money in something of what went in and all. But when corners were cut and in 50 years or in 20 years, you know, it starts chipping off or something, or exactly what you're saying, you know, things are getting weird. I'd be pretty upset if I spent, you know, 20, 50 grand on something.
Yep.
But also, regardless of being upset, just like, because who knows at that point, maybe they care, maybe they don't, but at the same time, it's like, it's a painting that you want to last forever.
Yeah. To be fair, like, we're not knocking on acrylic painting at all. Like it's just acrylics have come a really long way, and they're very good now. They're very light fast.
Acrylics out there though, because it's hard. You know, oils you have tried and true. It's like science. You know, acrylic you have science of like 50 years. You know what I mean? Like we don't. Plastics last a long time out there, but we really don't know what they're going to do 500 years from now. You know, they might literally boil at the surface because we didn't realize plastics do that after 200 years.
Right. Yep. But oils, we know what oils do over years and years. We know how to preserve them. We know how to clean them. We know how to restore them, like all the things.
I think the difference, like when you talk about like how acrylics have come a long way too. I think that the brands, I know it seems so silly, but like the types of paint that I was buying for a long time. I would just buy the cheapest stuff. So I'm like, it's just paint. It doesn't really matter. Like,
and then once you start using some good colors, like, oh man.
Really
and I think about how like the colors I was using, like I was using a burnt sienna that was very cheap. And then I bought burnt sienna and it was not burnt sienna.
Like,
you know what I mean? Like all these colors, I was like, damn it. Like these are like base colors I was using and they're not even the right ones.
Yep. With my oil colors, I mean, for years, I've pretty much just used like Winton, you know, Winsor Newton. That's kind of like your basic midline oil colors. There are some others thrown in my palette where like, you know, somebody might have gifted me this or that or the other. And gambling stuff's good. But the more like basically like now I'm buying like instead of like the hue, like the crimson red hue, I'm actually buying the like the real deal. And I just need the littlest, tiniest amount. And the way I like dilute it with my solvent and liquid, like
when you
that
showed me
littlest
liquid,
bit
I was
of
like,
pigment stretched it right out. Yeah, liquid's a game changer.
Quality paint, quality oil paints are the most they really are. Oil paints really are very, very toxic.
That's fair, but you see how I do everything teeny tiny and everything's in the smallest amounts in my little kit.
I don't. Those things don't matter as much. I feel like definitely, but I see like the painting you guys are just showing of mine right there. Everything you see right there, it has all lead paint in it. It's like
I was gonna say because we're both on a lead white kick as well, so that's like,
yeah, right.
Well, once I got turned on to that, I first of all I wasn't going back, but also I was like, okay, loving up for sure.
Right, and it's honestly it worked. It's after using titanium for so long, like it's crazy how much I love it. I could talk about why all day, but it's also really good for base, you know, or really good for breaking down colors with, and you know, making a large amount of colors without getting too saturated and things. So I use a lot of it for everything that's happening in that image, except for maybe my coolest tones, and it just makes for a very heavy lead base. So don't go licking it.
No more. I mean, you shouldn't be lipping your oil colors, anyways, guys.
Really, to be honest, I hate wearing gloves. I don't like wearing
to sharpen my
brushes. I do that always now.
Kyle got me wearing gloves. Kyle was set up out here one day, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna paint. I got all my stuff out here, and then Kyle had a glove on, and I was like, okay, so I put gloves on too. He said, I don't look like an asshole. And I was like, everyone wears gloves. All right, we're wearing gloves out here painting.
You know, you got. I mean, the past 10 years have flown by for me. Like I started oil painting. I feel like probably like 10. It was like 8 years ago or so, but it literally feels like a couple years ago. It also feels like a lifetime ago, but still, time's passed for so long, and I've spent so long not wearing gloves. Doing that. Granted, I wasn't using a lot of the toxic colors back then. I was buying a lot of hues and cheap colors. Are usually not as toxic, to be honest. Cheapies are healthies. Usually, just because more expensive than mineral. But then after, I don't know, I was never cared about oil paint being on my fingers, like being messy when I was being artistic or being creative or anything, working on stuff. Didn't care, you know. For me, it was just like a product of what I'm doing. Don't care. Wash my hands, done. And now, like I've just so worried about things adding up. You know what I mean? Like, you know, having like working on something I have hundreds of hours in, am I going to have hundreds of hours of lead paint being on my hands? You know, that's so easy for things like that to happen now.
Yep. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It adds up too.
That scares me.
Yeah, I always try to be mindful of even just like dermatitis, because like I'm like naturally I feel like I'm prone to like dry, cracked skin anyways. So just keeping solvents off of my skin. Like some people will literally wash up in mineral spirits after they paint. I go to the sink and I use the Gojo. Okay.
Yeah, that like that like
nice give me some of that hummus, give me some of that citrus.
I like those like nice pumice soaps.
Or the artist soap. It's the wintergreen bar. Awesome. Conditions your skin, scrubs all those chemicals off.
My partner decided that he wanted to learn to paint, and I love it. It's like awesome. Like I was really excited for him to paint, but he had started painting when I went to bed, and he had never painted before. And I came out the next morning, and he had gotten into oil paint. And we have every medium in my house. You could do whatever you wanted. There's everything.
The wrong one.
And he picked oil, and I had a heart attack. There was blue, everywhere. There was, because like he had dropped it or whatever, and then my dog had smeared it. So now I'm like, oh my God, there's freaking oil paint on my dog. So like immediately I'm like wiping the dog, like trying to clean him up, and then I'm like cleaning the house up, and it was so stressful. And he was so excited too. Like when I woke up, the first thing he said, he was like, I painted. Like, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, he's so excited about art, and I love this. So I was like, ooh, and I went out there, and I like my whole body just filled with just like, oh my God, because like the like he took something random to use for the oil paints and just globbed tons of it. And that's when I had just invested all my nice paints and things, so like very expensive endeavor that happened that night.
Well,
and I was like, well, we've learned so I had to like wait throughout the day until I've calmed, and I was like, hey baby, this painting is so awesome and I'm so excited. We need to talk about oil paint a little bit. And I think maybe acrylic is your jam for the moment while we're learning. Yeah. I was like, oh boy, it was a lot of anxiety. And then when we moved, I kept finding more of it, you know, because he had just he was like, well, Bob Ross. I was like, don't talk about Bob Ross. That's you don't fling your brush like him. So I knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh no.
He said, Bob Ross. I was like, don't talk about him.
In the art studio,
don't
not his living room.
Yeah. Sir. Oh boy.
You just gotta beat the devil out of it.
Yeah, that's what he said to me. I was like, nope, you did. Looks like it.
Man, oh man. I feel like we've had a pretty rad conversation today. We talked about collabs the first half, and then we got down some super rad rabbit holes.
Great.
Anything else you guys feel like we need to talk about today?
Great.
I mean, we've been going for a couple of hours now. Couple of hours and 12 minutes. Oh, somewhere in there.
I feel good about it.
Really good.
Yeah.
What episode was this today?
133.
133. I can't believe how far we've come. Like, not that that's like a milestone number or anything, but before we went live, before I accidentally talked Jordan into joining us, we were just talking about how many episodes we've done, and Jordan was like, you know, maybe missed a few here and there, and we probably only missed maybe 5 or 6 weeks the whole time, really. Like, we're pretty steady about it. A few weeks ago, we missed one, but we didn't necessarily have anything lined up. And we all kind of like, I think simultaneously had things coming up. So I was just like, let's do one next week.
I was texting you in the movie theater about it. He said, do you want to come on the podcast? I was like, I was like doing that thing. He was like, well, I was like, I'll be on the podcast. He was like, okay.
Did you say it in that voice?
Absolutely. That's how I talk to him.
Nice.
Yeah. That's my love language, actually. That's what that means.
There's this guy that I follow on Instagram. I can't think of his name right now, but when we get off of here, I'm going to have to find one of his videos, because in my head, this is how Harry talks to you. But I feel like he's probably way calmer, because every time he comes here, he's so chill.
I am all of the energy that we need. So he is like chili beans. He is like, yeah, he's exactly what I need. And I'm the one that'll be like acting all wild, like with the homeless man and everything.
And he's like I support you, but just tone it down a little bit.
Hey, don't do that. That was a little much. You know, or like the other day he came here and he was stuck out in the little glass case of emotions.
Yeah.
And then he left, and then I asked him to come back, and then I forgot him out there again.
You know,
he's just using the shenanigans. That's what I mean.
The fatal mistake there is that you had your phone silenced. I silence mine often, but I have the little flashy light on it.
I have my phone face down always.
I have the flashy light. It's weird. I see my massage therapist like every few weeks or a month or whatever. And usually when my phone goes off, it like lights up the whole room like the police.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's silenced, but it just like flashes 3 times if I get a text. So I have a couple, if I have a couple or a few people message me during our session, ding, 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 it'll like flash 3 times, and then like a minute later it'll flash 3 more for each message. So it like just keeps lighting up. And I'm like, I'm sorry. When I'm working, it's much less distracting for me to just see those little blips but I know if you don't expect it, it is kind of startling. But anyways,
I was expecting him though. As the thing is, I said, turn back around and I'll let you in. Just text when you get here. And then I was like, which is just kind of our whole thing, but he's pretty chili beans. Yeah.
Patient.
Yeah. Very patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to have to show you this guy, because my mental voice I have for him is this guy.
You've met? Are you talking about Harry?
Yeah.
Yeah. Harry's the best. Everyone loves Harry. He tries not to meet a lot of my friends because he knows he's going to steal them away from me. So he's very kind about that. He'll tell you that too. He'll be like, the reason I'm not around a lot is because you're going to fall in love with me. Like, it's going to let you know. I was like, I'm the best. When he does talk, it's his little blurps. You know what I mean?
Devin, would you like to hop up here? We're talking to our topic of conversation today is collab tattoos. We're kind of wrapping up, but Devin just happened to stroll in, and Rich Cook, another local artist, and I are starting a collaborative sleeve on Devin. I'm Devin. Devin with the B.
I'm Devin. You know, there was a time where I thought about changing it to D''VON.
Oh no, don't do that.
Was it after you saw my name? Bad E. All right, you want to have these?
You want to hop up here for a second? Do you mind? Put you on the spot? Like I said, we're just kind of wrapping up, but
no.
SIGs? No, we can't do SIGs in the warehouse.
No, that's a joint.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's a secret.
That
it's a secret joint.
That secret joint. Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. We don't mess around with none of them SIGs. All right, they're gonna do the swap-a-do, and then we'll wrap up with Devin here.
I was like, I'm gonna try really hard.
Are you okay?
Hello.
I have long legs. It was a great.
Can you hear me?
Check.
What up? Hey, Jordan. How you doing?
Jordan's upstairs working.
Dude, I love the placement for Jim. It's a perfect resting spot.
We talked about Jim earlier.
I
So
was blowing people's minds over the weekend about the fact that raptors have feathers, by the way.
everybody needs to
That
know.
was one of my favorite parts of the weekend too, is definitely just like people not knowing and having no idea. I heard people walk by and call it the mythical bird beast and shit like that. And I'm just like, that's great.
Magical, mythical. We have fossilized evidence. This exists or existed. So a few weeks ago, it's been a few weeks since we had our consultation with Rich.
It's been about 2-3 weeks.
How do you feel that consultation went with the three of us as opposed to when it's just a one-on-one consultation?
Well, first of all, I will say I was way too stoned.
Well,
but overall, I really enjoy watching, like, when two artists come together and they're like, and an idea sparks between one of them, and then the other one's like, oh, well, we could do this, and we could add this, and like, it's really fun watching everything form into one from two people.
Mm-hmm. We were talking about the different processes and the different ways collaborations can go together or come together. As Rich and I were talking ideas, we actually bounced maybe 3 different solid ideas around for the day until we came up with like this beautifully simple idea that's going to be a showstopper.
Well, now you got me curious.
I mean, Rich and I are capable of doing incredibly intricate things, but we're going with something that's going to be so bold and so, just unique to either one of us. I think it's going to be a really cool thing that we're bringing to life. I was talking about the collaboration that I just finished with Guy, and then the one that I just started with Amber Joy on Jess. So.
You did the collaboration with Guy on Lauren, right?
Uh-huh.
Thing is beautiful.
Thanks. It's pretty crazy. We were talking about the whole process of it earlier. So hopefully there will be another collab coming soon with Guy. We were kind of like kicking around some maybe ideas. So maybe talk the right collector into getting a piece.
Dude, honestly, if you really want to talk about like serious collaborations, I think it would be really fun. Don't get me wrong, it'd be painful as shit, but I think it'd be really fun to see a collaborative back piece between you, Adam, and Guy.
That would be pretty cool.
I think between the 3 of you, all 3 of your attentions to all the attention to detail that all 3 of you have, as well as the attention to detail that you guys have, as well as just Like the overlapping styles that you play with, I think would be phenomenal.
I don't disagree. I bet it probably wouldn't be impossible to make that happen.
No, not at all.
Just be a matter
Someone's
of lining
gonna
up
empty that.
schedules.
And I think that's probably the hardest part with the collab is just aligning schedules.
Oh man, I was so exhausted going over to hyperspace right before Hell City. And I knew I was going to be exhausted from Hell City. So I was like, oh man. And I can't
whole
tell
week
guy
of-
no. Oh. Yeah, it was a whole entire week of exhaustion. It was like,
Yeah,
I think
I'm gonna be honest, Hell City was it was so amazing, but it was such a blur. Like, I learned some lessons. That's for sure.
Believe you.
I didn't do as much socializing as I would have liked. I was definitely but I was so
never do.
I was so tired to be like I don't know, any more coherent than I was.
No, in those kind of situations, man, like festivals, conventions, especially when you have a heavy hand in putting it on, you're never going to be able to quite get as much interaction with people that you really want. You're going to be dog tired, absolutely exhausted, but it's worth it.
It's one of those things that once you've done it a few times, you're going to be exhausted, so you can prepare for it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like kind of like you get a little extra sleep when you can that week ahead of time, because this is coming up and you're going to be tired. You stock up on like your favorite water, you stock up on snacks, you go a little extra getting your body ready for something like that. Same thing if you're going to a festival and you're going to be in the sun for 3 or 4 days. You prepare your body ahead of time.
I spent a week sleeping for 2 hours and eating like at a minimum, just trying to get the Velociraptor ready, trying to get that time in. And like, that's what did me in. We planned so hardcore to get so much sleep before Hell City this year and be so well rested and be so well off. We were so excited. Like even the week before that, where we were just like, fuck yeah, we know what we're doing. We're going to do this right. We had, of course, everything planned except for, even Jim, even the Raptor, we thought we were going to have it done like in time. We didn't think it was going to be like a minute to minute, but we put that last feather on at like 6 or 7 o'clock on Thursday, and literally into the U-Haul to the fucking place, and like then dropped everything, and we're like, thank fucking God, because every extra minute was literally spent in the garage working on that. Granted, very fun. I do like it, but it was just like, that whole week was basically just feathers.
Have you determined how long it like down to at least the hour amount that it took to create Jim from scratch or start to finish?
I'll estimate it for sure, but probably around 250 hours or so. And that's split between me and Emily. I would say I probably did, I did probably 3/4 of it, and then she did the rest, or not the rest, but like necessarily, like she did probably like a quarter of it all too, because we really were able to delegate some tasks near the end. Once like I got the structure together and really created the plan for things and got it in motion, I was able to like direct her, but then even not direct her, she just knew what she was doing, could just keep going, and she probably put in 150 hours of her own time, and I probably put in 200 hours. Probably put in 100. I don't know. No, that makes me. We probably spent 300 hours, 350 honestly. Probably 200 is probably pretty.
That's insane.
Pretty.
He's been talking about this thing for a while, though. Like he's been losing sleep over this for a long time.
Oh, I bet.
But
we talked about the next dinosaur though, and you never allowed me to, or I never elaborated more on that. But if you ever heard of a microraptor?
Is that like the little things that ate the girl in Jurassic Park, like 2 or 3?
Right, that's what you think of. They weren't those little guys. They were basically a raptor. Well, they were like fucking tiny shit. Like imagine like an eighth of the size of the one I made. They're tiny guys, but they had wings on their legs and wings on their arms, and they're pretty much the same type of theropod, a raptor. So bone structure almost looks exactly the same, just scaled down very small. So it seems like a more reasonable project, while also being really cool because they were just discovered not too long ago. And they were the first ones to have wings on their feet too. So they got quilled feathers that come out of their leg bones. We don't even have any birds that do that.
Well, all right. We're all starting to get antsy. Everybody's starting to get
done then.
calls. We're getting to the wrap up time. Devin, you came in perfect time to help me wrap up.
I just did my last dot. Isn't that crazy?
Perfect. Maddie, she's a few feet away. Thank you for joining us again this week. It's always an awesome conversation when you hop in. And since Ben is on his epic trail hike, it's pretty. He's on the Appalachian Trail.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. Yep.
How much of it is he doing?
All right, we're signing off,
Can't remember.
guys.
All right, guys.
Soon. Bye,
Okay,
everybody.
see ya.
Love you, Jordan.
All right, everybody else. Thanks for taking the time to join us this week.
It's a pleasure getting up on here with
Yeah,
you for a few
thanks,
minutes.
Devin.
Thanks.
It's always nice when we have extra friends join us, extra collectors, extra people in the community, you know. Tune in next week. I'm not real sure what we're going to be talking about yet, but hopefully I will have some really cool, thoughtful videos from Hell City. So there have been a few projects in the works, so hopefully I'll be able to share some of those. If not,